Chapter 443. You're very strong. The leader of the law enforcers, Wen Feng, said as he looked at Qin Yu. You're not bad either. Qin Yu swept his gaze at the 5 people behind Wen Feng and lightly nodded. The law enforcers truly live up to their reputation. No wonder you're able to cause those evil people to be so afraid. The 5 law enforcers behind Wen Feng all looked at Qin Yu. Their gazes were cold. At this moment, Elder Lu Tong immediately laughed and said, I am Elder Lu Tong of the Deep Mulberry Star. This is interstellar ascetic cultivator Lord Lu Xing. Lord Lu Xing is also from our Deep Mulberry Star. Interstellar ascetic cultivator. Wen Feng repeated. Then he clenched his left hand into a fist and placed it on his right chest. He said respectfully, Wen Feng thanks Lu Xing for killing the 7-star Emperor-level metal beast. The 5 enforcers behind Wen Feng also bowed. Qin Yu lightly smiled and said, It was nothing. Oh, that's right. When I was killing that 7-star Emperor-level metal beast, that metal beast had sent me a sound transmission to threaten me. It said that if I killed it, its brothers would come back for revenge. The law enforcer Wen Feng slightly raised the corners of his mouth. It seemed as if he was smiling. I fear that 7-star Emperor-level metal beast's plan was wrong. I reckon that even if its 2 brothers were to join hands, they would still be far from being a match for you, Lu Xing. Qin Yu merely nodded his head slightly. The reason why he had stayed on the Deep Mulberry Star for a couple more days was because he was worried that the 7-star Emperor-level metal beast's brothers would come for revenge. That was why he had stayed for a couple more days. According to Qin Yu's estimations, if the 7-star Emperor-level metal beast's brothers were to come for revenge, it would likely take them a couple more days. And now the law enforcers had arrived. Furthermore, judging by their strength, they should be able to eliminate the 2 surviving Emperor-level metal beasts. There was no need for him to stay any longer. Lord Law Enforcers, please come in and rest. Elder Lu Tong immediately spoke. Among this group of people he, Elder Lu Tong, was the weakest. Law Enforcers. He, Elder Lu Tong, knew very well that the law enforcers were a group of people that chased after those evil people that destroyed the Dark Star Realm. In the inner hall of the Elder's Hall, Elder Lu Tong, these 3 Emperor-class metal beasts first appeared on the Origin Movement planet in the north, planet Fengyi. They massacred the entire planet Feng, a population of several tens of thousands. Even the Elder of planet Feng, was killed. After that our enforcers were dispatched. They were mainly split into 3 teams. However, we did not expect the 3 Emperor-class metal beasts to be so powerful. After the 3 Emperor-class metal beasts massacred another Origin Movement planet, one of our enforcers finally intercepted the 3 Emperor-class metal beasts. In the palace hall, Wen Feng explained in detail. Merely, the people that we sent out at that time weren't very strong. The strongest person in that law enforcer team was only a 10-star emperor. Of the 6 people in the small team, 3 were killed and the other 3 fled. However, that 10-star emperor-level captain had already deduced that among the 3 emperor-level metal beasts, the strongest one should be around 12-star emperor level. Of course, we can't rule out the fact that the emperor-level metal beast is hiding its strength. When Lu Tong heard this, he was shocked. He did not expect that 2 Origin Movement planets would be massacred. If it wasn't for Qin Yu, this Deep Mulberry Star would have been the 3rd. It shouldn't have concealed its strength. Otherwise, it wouldn't have watched as 3 of your people escaped. Qin Yu determined. The masked Wen Feng cast his gaze toward Qin Yu. He nodded and said, I also think so. Furthermore, I have determined the strength of the other 2 Emperor-class metal beasts. One is a 10-star Emperor level, and the other is a 7-star Emperor level. There is absolutely no problem. Even if the last one was stronger, it shouldn't be much stronger than these 2. Lu Xing, you said that 7-star Emperor-level metal beast had threatened you before it died, and that its brothers would come and take revenge on you. Wen Feng asked Qin Yu. That's right. Qin Yu nodded. Don't worry. If those 2 Emperor-class metal beasts were to appear, I will immediately discover them. Currently, Qin Yu's immortal awareness had completely covered the entire Deep Mulberry Star. With Qin Yu's current immortal awareness, The amount of soul power consumed to cover the entire deep mulberry star would not affect him at all. You all go and rest first. Wen Feng ordered his subordinates. Yes, my lord. The 5 enforcers saluted, and then left the palace hall. At this moment, Wen Feng cast his gaze toward Elder Lu Tong. Elder Lu Tong also tactfully left the palace hall. Immediately, only Qin Yu and Wen Feng remained in the palace hall. Wen Feng looked to Qin Yu. The mask on his face instantly disappeared. Qin Yu's eyes widened slightly. This Wen Feng's appearance had truly shocked Qin Yu. He had never imagined that a person from the Dark Star realm would have an appearance similar to the people from the demon realm. A third eye. To be exact, there was a closed crack on Wen Feng's forehead. However, Qin Yu's immortal awareness was able to discover that there was an eye within the crack. Lu Xing, your strength is sufficient for me to remove my mask. Let me introduce myself first. I am Wen Feng, the newly appointed large captain of the enforcers, a 15-star emperor-level expert. A rare smile appeared on Wen Feng's face. Qin Yu was unable to figure out what purpose this Wen Feng, before him, had for treating him like this. My name is Lu Xing, an ordinary interstellar cultivator. Qin Yu introduced himself in a very simple manner. How could an ordinary interstellar cultivator be someone that even I, Wen Feng, am unable to see through? Not long ago, the sacred planet had summoned an expert from the Gold Punishment sect that had reached 15-star emperor level to the entire Dark Star realm to become the head of our Dark Star realm's 3 great sovereigns, the Gold Punishment Lord. I am puzzled. Lu Xing, with your strength, why didn't you go to the sacred planet? Wen Feng directly asked. The 3 great sovereigns of the Dark Star realm. That was a position that everyone yearned for. As for the Gold Punishment Lord, he was the head of the 3 great sovereigns. His status was even more supreme. Qin Yu smiled and said, let's not talk about me. What about you? I can tell that you've also reached 15-star emperor level. However, why didn't you become the Gold Punishment Lord, and instead became the large captain of the enforcers? Qin Yu was indeed incomparably puzzled by this. Wen Feng laughed at himself and said, did you think that I didn't want to become the Gold Punishment Lord? Gold Punishment Lord, the head of the 3 great sovereigns. How revered is his status? The emperor-level metal beast has arrived. Qin Yu suddenly interrupted Wen Feng's words. Wen Feng also stopped talking. The two of them glanced at each other, and then disappeared from the palace hall at practically the same time. A ferocious bird whose entire body was composed of blue-colored metal was currently spiraling in the sky. This ferocious bird was the 10-star emperor-level metal beast. It was currently hesitating whether or not to destroy the deep mulberry star. Second brother, quickly leave. There's an expert here. A voice sounded in the ferocious bird's mind. The ferocious bird felt a burst of fear in its heart. Not good, there's danger. However, right at the moment when it was preparing to use greater teleportation to leave, a hand suddenly appeared out of thin air and grabbed onto its neck. Little bird, you're still trying to escape? A voice with a trace of ridicule sounded. The ferocious bird turned its head to look to the side. The person who grabbed onto its neck was a youth with a slight smile on his face. This ferocious bird simply did not know that a few days ago, its third brother was also grabbed by the same person. At this moment, a figure appeared beside Qin Yu. It was Wen Feng. I let it escape. Wen Feng's expression was somewhat ugly. That 12-star emperor-level metal beast was hiding in the outer space. It had even set up a spirit formation in its surroundings. This caused me to be unable to directly teleport to its side. Spirit formation? Metal beasts also know how to set up spirit formations? Qin Yu was surprised. Wen Feng laughed at himself. Who knows? This is also the first time I've seen it. However, in history, there have been powerful emperor-level metal beasts that had set up spirit formations before. With the intelligence of humans, it is not impossible for them to set up spirit formations. You all had best release me. Otherwise, my big brother will definitely come and kill you all. That ferocious bird actually spoke the human language. Haha. Qin Yu started to laugh. Hey, little bird. Did you know that a few days ago, that 7-star emperor-level metal beast was also grabbed by me like this? When I was about to kill it, it also threatened me. It was you who killed third brother. That ferocious bird stared at Qinyu. However, the ferocious bird discovered that after its neck was grabbed by Qinyu, the golden core in its body was completely enveloped by Qinyu's metal power. It was simply unable to use any energy at all. When Feng, even if that 12-star Emperor-level metal beast was in a spirit formation, you shouldn't have been unable to capture it. Qinyu said puzzledly. After all, Wen Feng was a 15-star Emperor-level expert. Wen Feng shook his head and said, being in a spirit formation, one cannot use greater teleportation. That 12-star Emperor-level metal beast left the Great Formation in the blink of an eye from the other side of the spirit formation and fled for its life. How do we deal with this little bird? Qinyu looked to Wen Feng. Do as you wish. As long as you kill it, its golden core and corpse will naturally be yours. Wen Feng said indifferently. That ferocious bird seemed to feel that doomsday had arrived. It looked to Qinyu with great fear. Lord, please spare me. As long as you spare me, I will do anything. Indeed, it has the intelligence of a human. Qinyu praised. Spare? Would he spare it? Qinyu still remembered that the leader of the law enforcers, Wen Feng, had said that these 3 Emperor-level metal beasts had already massacred 2 deep mulberry stars. How could he spare such savage metal beasts? His fingers exerted a bit of force. A sound akin to steel breaking sounded. That 10-star Emperor-level metal beast's neck was completely broken. As for its golden core, it was directly taken out by Qinyu. Wen Feng, I asked you a question earlier. You still haven't answered me. Aren't you a 15-star Emperor-level expert? Why didn't you become the new Gold Punishment Lord? Qinyu was still worried about this question. Wen Feng shook his head and smiled helplessly. I had also once wanted to become the Gold Punishment Lord. Thus I trained diligently. Half a year ago, I finally broke through and reached 15-star Emperor level. Only when I returned to the sacred planet did I find out that a super expert had already returned to the sacred planet. That super expert had already been designated as the new Gold Punishment Lord. The official announcement should be made in half a year's time. At that time, I felt somewhat helpless. Thus, I became the captain of the law enforcers and went to kill some people to vent my anger. Never would I have expected that you would become the captain of the law enforcers just to vent your anger. Oh, that's right. You said that the new Gold Punishment Lord has already been designated. How strong is that person? Qinyu asked. Wen Feng clenched his fists tightly and said, the new Gold Punishment Lord's strength is extremely powerful. Terrifyingly powerful. Qinyu was shocked. Even Wen Feng said that the new Gold Punishment Lord was terrifyingly powerful. In that case, exactly how powerful was this new Gold Punishment Lord? How powerful could he be? Qinyu said with a smile. Wen Feng said solemnly, no, he is truly very powerful. Back then, I was also very unconvinced as to why he became the new Gold Punishment Lord. Only later did I find out that that person was already an 18-star Emperor level expert. 18-star Emperor level? Qinyu was stunned. 17 and 18-star Emperor level experts generally possessed souls of level 9 immortal emperors. They were people who were about to undergo the divine tribulation. The possibility of an 18-star Emperor level expert appearing was too low. 18-star Emperor level expert. In that case, his bones and muscles would be as tough and valiant as a high-quality divine artifact. Qinyu felt a bit apprehensive. Qinyu suddenly frowned. How did such an expert appear out of nowhere? Qinyu looked to Wen Feng and asked, where is this super expert from? How did he suddenly appear out of nowhere? Dark Star. Wen Feng said solemnly. The 18th Dark Star of the 18 Emperor level trial Dark Stars. Lu Xing, you ought to know that those who are able to persist on the 18th Dark Star for 2 hours are considered to be 18-star Emperor level experts. In all these years, I have never seen anyone go to the 18th Dark Star to train. However, about a year ago, a person suddenly appeared from the interstellar conveying array that connected to the 18th Dark Star. When Wen Feng said this, Qinyu also understood. All 18 Dark Stars were connected to interstellar conveying arrays. For that person to be able to come out from the interstellar conveying array that connected to the 18th Dark Star, He was most definitely an 18-star Emperor-level expert. Sigh. Who would have known that there was someone on the 18th dark star? Yet, that person suddenly appeared. After that person appeared, 2 months later, another person appeared from the interstellar conveying array that connected to the 17th dark star. Qin couldn't help but be stunned. Another one? That person should be a 17-star Emperor-level expert. It would appear that the Gold Punishment Lord's position was not snatched away by you in vain. Oh, that's right. How did these two super experts suddenly appear? Wen Feng smiled bitterly. How would I know? Looking at the records of the interstellar conveying arrays, the 17th and the 18th Emperor-level dark star were sent to the interstellar conveying arrays. The last time they were sent to the interstellar conveying arrays was several hundred years ago. The majority of the people thought that even if there were people that entered the interstellar conveying arrays in the past, they would have been crushed to pieces by the frightening pressure and died. Who would have thought that after so many years they would return? Qin nodded and joked. It is indeed very frightening. What if a dozen or 20 people suddenly appeared from the 18th Emperor-level dark star? Imagine that scene. Wen Feng's entire body went numb after hearing what Qin said. It is extremely rare for people to enter the 17th and 18th Emperor-level dark star to train in. Similarly, no one knows whether or not there are super experts bitterly training in those two dark stars. Wen Feng sighed. Qin nodded. Amen. It's time to proceed to the 18th Emperor-level trial dark star. Qin thought in his heart. Chapter 444. Violent winds were howling. The Elder's palace was located at the peak of a mountain. On this mountain peak, Qin was currently bidding farewell to Elder Lu Tong, Wen Feng and the other 5 law enforcers. Lord Lu Xing, you do not have a transmission spiritual pearl? After Elder Lu Tong heard Qin reply, he could not help but be surprised. Qin nodded and said with a smile. In the past, when I was wandering the interstellar space, I did not have any use for a transmission spiritual pearl. Thus, I have never purchased one. What's wrong? Is this very strange? Qin blushed with shame in his heart. Of course he had a transmission spiritual pearl. Merely, his transmission spiritual pearl was refined by the people of the immortal realm. He reckoned that if he were to take it out, it would definitely arouse suspicion. So that's the case. Elder Lu Tong came to a sudden realization. Immediately after, Elder Lu Tong said with a straight face, Lord Lu Xing, as an interstellar cultivator in the past, it is one thing for you to not have a transmission spiritual pearl. However, you are now an Emperor-level expert of our Deep Mulberry Star. If our Deep Mulberry Star were to encounter any difficulties, we would need Lord Lu Xing's help. However, without a transmission spiritual pearl, we would not be able to find Lord Lu Xing. I have a transmission spiritual pearl here. If Lord Lu Xing does not mind, please accept it. Seeing the transmission spiritual pearl in Elder Lu Tong's hand, Qin could not help but smile. This Elder Lu Tong truly knew how to conduct himself. Lu Xing, accept it. In the future, if we have any matters to look for you, we can contact you through the transmission spiritual pearl. The leader of the law enforcers, Wen Feng, said to Qin, since that's the case, I will accept it. Qin accepted the transmission spiritual pearl. After that, he left a soul imprint on the transmission spiritual pearl with Elder Lu Tong and Wen Feng so that they could contact each other. Now that I have the transmission spiritual pearl, I am only missing an interstellar map. Qin was very satisfied. As an outsider, it was indeed very complicated for him to infiltrate the Dark Star realm, especially when he was being inspected before he was awarded the Stellar Identity Crystal. Qin was truly worried that he would be found out. According to Qin estimation, the reason why he hadn't been discovered was because of the astral space. If it was someone else, it would be impossible for them to do this. Wen Feng, I have never been to the Trial Dark Star, nor do I know how to get there. I wonder if you have an interstellar map of the Trial Dark Star? Qin looked at Wen Feng. The goods that this 15-star Emperor-level expert took out were definitely not inferior. Thus, Qin did not ask Elder Lu Tong for them. Instead, he asked the leader of the law enforcers, Wen Feng, for them. The corners of Wenfeng's mouth curled up slightly, and there was a trace of a smile in his eyes. Lu Xing, I really can't help but admire you. To be able to cultivate to such a level, you actually never went to the Trial Dark Star. This interstellar map is the map of the entire Dark Star realm. We the law enforcers are all given a copy. As he spoke, Wenfeng handed over a crystal that looked like a jade slip. Qin Yu took it and scanned it with his soul force. There was an interstellar map inside. This interstellar map was extremely large. It actually contained all 9 great starfields of the Dark Star realm. It was extremely detailed. Furthermore, there was also the symbol of the bewitching god temple. Qin Yu felt a trace of joy in his heart. With this detailed interstellar map, he would be able to go anywhere in the vast Dark Star realm. Wenfeng, thank you. I have never been to the Trial Dark Star before. I am truly looking forward to it now. Qin Yu said while laughing. Qin Yu had his own opinion of the Dark Star. He had seen some introductions of the Dark Star realm in his Master Lei Wei's Science and Technology universe. White dwarf stars, neutron stars and other such planets, their density and gravity were all extremely large. However, Qin Yu also discovered one thing. The majority of the planets in his Master's Science and Technology universe were not very large. For example, planets like his hometown, the Purple Mystic Star, were super planets with a diameter of over 10 billion miles. They had never been discovered in the Science and Technology universe. In fact, they were considered to be unlikely to exist. Immortal devil and demon realm. As an existence that is a level higher than the mortal realm. What is the difference between the Dark Star of the mortal realm and the Dark Star of the mortal realm? Qin Yu started to guess. Qin Yu, this is your first time going to the Dark Star. There are a few things that you must pay attention to. Wenfeng suddenly said with a serious expression. When you are teleporting from the Trial Sacred Planet to the Trial Dark Star, it is best that you support yourself with both your hands and legs on the ground. This way the pressure on your body will be less. If you were to only rely on your 2 legs, once the gravity becomes too frightening, it might even cause your bones to shatter into pieces. Hearing that, Qin Yu's heart jumped. Supporting himself with both his hands and legs on the ground. What was that? Also, when choosing the Trial Dark Star to enter, you must not be too greedy. You must try to be as conservative as possible. Only when you are on a trial planet and can hold a Dark Star block that is twice as heavy as you, can you enter the higher level of the Dark Star. Wenfeng continued. After that, Wenfeng started to laugh. Let's not talk about it anymore. I actually forgot. When you arrive at the Trial Sacred Planet, there will naturally be someone to tell you about it. Trial Sacred Planet? Qin Yu only knew about the 36 Trial Dark Stars. However, he did not know what the Trial Sacred Planet was. What is the Trial Sacred Planet? Qin Yu asked. Elder Lu Tong sighed and said, Lord Lu Xing, you don't even know about the Trial Sacred Planet. It would appear that your understanding of this is truly too lacking. Let me tell you, the 3 core planets of the 3 great starfields of the Dark Star realm are the 3 great sacred planets. They are respectively the Gold Punishment Sacred Planet, the Black Flame Sacred Planet, and the White Profound Sacred Planet. Other than these 3 great sacred planets, there is another planet called the Sacred Planet. That is the Trial Sacred Planet. Wenfeng continued. Lu Xing, the 36 Trial Dark Stars are divided into 18 Emperor-level Trial Dark Stars and 18 King-level Trial Dark Stars. In order to proceed to the 36 Trial Dark Stars, one must first arrive at the Trial Sacred Planet. This Trial Sacred Planet is the transit planet to the 36 Trial Dark Stars. Qin Yu suddenly realized. Wasn't it just a transit planet? However, upon thinking about it carefully, Qin Yu realized that this Trial Sacred Planet was likely more prosperous than the other 3 sacred planets. After all, more than half of the experts in the Dark Star realm were gathered on the 36 Trial Dark Stars. As for this only transit planet, it was certain that experts would frequently appear. Elder Lu Tong said, My teacher said that there are a lot of experts on the Trial Sacred Planet. Even Emperor-level experts are relatively common there. Thus it is best to endure patiently there. Elder Lu Tong. There is no need for you to say those words to Lu Xing, Wen Feng said. Oh right, I forgot. Elder Lu Tong laughed at himself. There are not many people in the Dark Star realm that are stronger than Lord Lu Xing. Qin Yu slightly organized his thoughts. Then he said to Elder Lu Tong and Wen Feng. Elder Lu Tong, Wen Feng, I will be setting off for the trial Dark Star now. Lord Lu Xing, take care. Elder Lu Tong said respectfully. As for Wen Feng, he looked at Qin Yu. Qin Yu's body turned into a ray of light and flew away from the summit of the mountain. He shot into the horizon and then disappeared. Qin Yu did not use the interstellar conveying arrays to proceed toward the trial's sacred planet. Since he possessed the interstellar map, Qin Yu directly used greater teleportation and rapidly rushed toward the trial's sacred planet. Trial's sacred planet? This was a planet with a diameter of over 1,000,000 miles. The trial Dark Star could be said to be the planet that contained the most experts among all the planets in the Dark Star realm. There were 36 tallest buildings on the trial sacred planet. These 36 tall buildings were all 99 stories tall. As for the other buildings, the tallest one was only 10 stories tall. One could imagine how conspicuous 36 99-story buildings were. This was the rule of the trial Dark Star. That was because these 36 tall buildings were where the experts participating in the trial lived. There was a row of words on top of each of the 36 tall buildings. They were respectively 1-star king level, 2-star king level, 18-star king level, 1-star emperor level, 2-star emperor level, 18-star emperor level. Groups of men and women were walking on the streets. Practically every single one of them was emitting a sort of aura. It was the tenacious aura that cultivators generally possessed. There were also a lot of shops and restaurants on the trial Dark Star. A youth wearing a black gown with long hair that reached his shoulders was walking on the streets. Sure enough, there are quite a lot of experts. Qin Yu looked all around. What's going on? Qin Yu looked to a tall building not far away with a puzzled expression. This tall building was 99 stories tall. From afar, he could see the words 18-star emperor level. 18-star emperor level experts should be extremely rare. But why are there the most people there? Qin Yu was puzzled. He couldn't help but walk toward that building. Based on Qin Yu's understanding, these 36 tall buildings were places for the trial challengers to rest and live. The first floor was a place for drinking and eating. The second floor and above were places for the trial challengers to rest and live. The trial challengers were able to eat and drink for free in their respective places. Just as Qin Yu walked into the 18-star emperor level tall building, he heard an enormous clamor. Lord Yu Yang, I've heard that you've already made some progress in your cultivation on the 8-star emperor level Dark Star. You're about to step into the 9-star emperor level Dark Star, right? Not yet. Although I've cultivated on the 8-star emperor level Dark Star for over 3,000 years, I reckon that I'll still need several hundred years to step into the 9-star emperor level Dark Star. Hey Bill, please. 36 low-grade elemental spirit stones. The clamor directly entered his ears. However, with Qin Yu's sharp hearing, he was able to hear a lot of conversations. Qin Yu couldn't help but feel puzzled. These people didn't seem to be 18-star emperor level experts. Why is it so noisy? Qin Yu was a bit puzzled. He walked into the tall building through the main entrance. Just as Qin Yu walked into the main entrance, a triangular prism pillar above the main entrance emitted a misty radiance that enveloped Qin Yu's entire body. Qin Yu raised his head to look. This crystal pillar was very similar to the crystal pillar that Elder Lu Tong took out back then. After walking through the main entrance, Qin Yu arrived at an enormous hall with a length and width of 100 meters. In the center of the hall was a teleportation array. Beside the teleportation array was a long-bearded old man who was resting with his eyes closed. Evidently, this teleportation array was used to teleport people to the 18-star emperor level Dark Star. The first floor occupied a very large area. Other than this 100-meter long and wide hall, there was also an even larger restaurant. At this moment, several hundred people were gathered in that restaurant, eating and drinking. The triangular prism pillar above the main entrance withdrew its misty radiance. However, A ray of light was shot out from the top of the triangular prism pillar. The ray of light shot into the red sphere above the hall. Stare! A sharp and clear sound resounded through the entire first floor. In almost an instant, the entire first floor turned silent. This included the several hundred people who were eating and drinking. Oh! In the blink of an eye, the several hundred cultivators who were eating and drinking rushed into the hall. Practically everyone looked toward the entrance, and there stood Qin Yu alone. Elder, a high-level emperor-level expert has arrived. An attendant of the restaurant immediately shouted toward the long-bearded old man, who seemed to have already fallen asleep. Lord Elder, stop sleeping. Amen. The long-bearded old man who was resting with his eyes closed suddenly opened his eyes wide. He raised his head and looked toward the red sphere above the hall. At this moment, the red sphere was emitting a misty radiance. That long-bearded old man rubbed his eyes in disbelief. At this moment, the several hundred spectators were discussing with one another in astonishment. It's a high-level emperor-level expert. At the very least, he's a 13-star emperor-level expert. He doesn't have the heat of the Black Flame sect, nor the cold air of the White Profound sect. Evidently, he's from the Gold Punishment sect. There doesn't seem to be anyone from the Gold Punishment sect that has reached 15-star emperor level. There is. This lord has arrived here. Could it be that he's an 18-star emperor level expert? I've heard that not long ago, an 18-star emperor level expert came out from this teleportation array. At that time, I was also here. Quiet. The long-bearded old man seemed to have woken up. He suddenly shouted at the group of people. The several hundred people immediately quieted down. At this moment, the long-bearded old man hurriedly walked before Qin Yu and said respectfully, I am Elder Lu Yu. I have always been in charge of the 18 Emperor-level Dark Star teleportation array. May I know what Lord has come here for? Are you going to enter the 18 Emperor-level Dark Stars? Elder Lu Yu carefully looked at the man before him and muttered in his heart. Amen, judging from his aura. He doesn't seem to be from the Black Flame sect or the White Profound sect. I reckon he's from the Gold Punishment sect. Could it be that someone from the Gold Punishment sect dares to enter the 18 Emperor-level Dark Stars? No, I haven't reached that level yet. Qin Yu hurriedly said. Qin Yu's heart jumped in fright. The moment he entered, that triangular crystal pillar had already displayed his strength. It had even attracted the attention of a large group of people. What's going on here? Is it worth it for a high-level emperor-level expert to act like this? Qin Yu felt somewhat indignant. Qin Yu didn't know. High-level emperor-level experts were incomparably rare to begin with. Normally, it would be hard to even see one in several tens of years. Most importantly, this was the 18-star emperor-level Dark Star. Coming here, and being a high-level emperor-level expert, meant that he was very likely an 18-star emperor-level expert. That was why this large group of people were so shocked. Oh Lord, it is our honor to be here. Over there is a place to eat. Lord, you can enjoy a half-price discount here. That Elder Lu Yu hurriedly said. If one wasn't a high-level emperor-level expert, one would have to pay full price here. Generally, high-level emperor-level experts would be able to enjoy half price. Only 18-star emperor-level experts would be able to eat, drink, and rest for free. Qin Yu nodded. I understand. Farewell. After saying that, Qin Yu directly left this place. Understand? Understand what? That Elder Lu Yu was somewhat puzzled. Only when Qin Yu heard the half-price discount did he understand the reason why this group of people were eating and drinking here. Logically speaking, 18-star emperor-level experts should be eating and resting here for free. It would appear that this group of people had to spend money here. No wonder they were able to gather here. After leaving this 18-star emperor-level building, Qin Yu walked towards another building, the 14-star emperor-level building. Chapter 445. Qin Yu stepped into the 14-star emperor-level building. Just like before, the triangular prism-shaped crystal pillar above the main entrance of the 14-star emperor-level building immediately tested Qin Yu's strength. A familiar ding sound resounded through the hall. Even the noise in the dining area immediately quieted down. That sound meant that a high-level Emperor-level expert had arrived. In the center of the hall, there was a teleportation array. Beside the teleportation array was an elder in charge of the affairs of the 14-star Emperor-level Dark Star. Quiet down. This elder shouted at the people in the dining area. Immediately after, he walked toward Qin Yu and said respectfully, "My lord, I am Elder Ji Qiao, the one in charge of the affairs of the 14-star Emperor-level Dark Star." "I am Lu Xing," Qin Yu nodded and said. "My lord, do you wish to eat and rest or enter the Dark Star to cultivate?" That Elder Ji Qiao asked. Elder Ji Qiao was slightly surprised in his heart. "Another super expert that I have never heard of. This is the second one today. I wish to enter the 14-star Emperor-level Dark Star to cultivate," Qin Yu said calmly. Once Qin Yu said those words, many people at the side immediately started discussing. Another person entering the Dark Star to cultivate. 14-star Emperor level. There was already one earlier, and now there's another one. How come there are so many experts in the Gold Punishment sect? 14-star Emperor level. Not to mention 14-star Emperor level. I would be thankful if I could even reach 1-star Emperor level. When Qin Yu heard the conversations of the group of people, he was surprised. Amen. There's already someone who entered the trial today? Lord Lu Xing. This is all the information regarding the trial in the Dark Star. My lord, please take a look. That Elder Ji Qiao handed over a jade strip to Qin Yu. Qin Yu received the jade strip and scanned it with his spiritual awareness. This jade strip was very small. However, it contained a lot of information. With a glance, Qin Yu indeed learned a lot of information regarding the trial. Firstly, if one wished to enter the trial Dark Star, one must use the Stellar Identity Crystal. When he had entered the gate just now, the triangular crystal pillar had covered him with light, which was the Celestial Identity Crystal. At the same time, in order to enter the 14-star Emperor-level Dark Star, one must possess the strength of a 13-star Emperor. The proof of one's strength was to successfully pass through the 13-star Emperor-level Dark Star's training. Once one succeeded, one would be awarded a 13-star Emperor-level title plate. Of course, Qin Yu had been determined to be a high-level Emperor level. He was at least a 13-star Emperor level expert. Thus, he did not necessarily need a 13-star Emperor level title plate. As for Qin Yu, if he were to succeed in the 14-star Emperor level Dark Star, he would be awarded a 14-star Emperor level title plate. In addition to these, the jade slip in Qin Yu's hand also described some of the things one needed to know during the trial on the Dark Star. Of course, Qin Yu could eat and rest here for free. Elder Ji Qiao. Qin Yu kept the jade strip and asked with a smile. I heard that not long ago, someone entered the 14-star Emperor-level Dark Star? Both of them were extraordinary experts. Elder Ji Qiao sighed in his heart. However, he spoke the truth. That's right. Not long ago, someone entered the 14-star Emperor-level Dark Star. Haha, I have been here for so many years. Sometimes, I would not receive a single person for several hundred years. Yet today, I received 2 people at once. Very well. In that case, activate the teleportation array. Qin Yu said. Immediately after, Qin Yu walked into the center of the teleportation array. Please wait a moment. Elder Ji Qiao walked forward and pointed with his finger. A white energy shot out from his finger and poured into the teleportation array. Immediately, the teleportation array lit up. At this moment, there were several hundred people surrounding them. They were all staring at Qin Yu. Their eyes were filled with envy and worship. My lord, it's best to be careful. Seeing Qin Yu standing there so proudly, Elder Ji Qiao reminded him. Qin Yu lightly smiled and shook his head. Elder Ji Qiao sighed in his heart. A bunch of arrogant people. As the light blossomed, it completely enveloped the entire teleportation array. After a short moment, the light from the teleportation array dissipated, and Qin Yu also disappeared. The group of cultivators in the surroundings started to clamor. In a short day, 2 people had entered the 14-star Emperor level. This was something worth talking about. Qin Yu knew his own strength. Merely in terms of his muscles and bones, he was definitely comparable to a 15-star Emperor level expert. However, in terms of muscles, He reckoned that he was not even comparable to a 14-star Emperor-level expert. The reason why Qin Yu came to the 14-star Emperor-level Dark Star was precisely to train his muscles. Qin Yu felt a flash before his eyes. Immediately after, a desolate world appeared before his eyes. However, before he could carefully observe his surroundings, Qin Yu felt a terrifyingly powerful pressure engulfing his entire body. Bang! Qin Yu suddenly knelt down on one knee. His knee fiercely smashed into the ground. His hands were also supporting himself on the ground. What's going on? Qin Yu felt that the muscles in his entire body were trembling, both inside and outside. Even his cells were disintegrating. That terrifying gravitational force caused his cells to be unable to maintain their original state. His original cells were beginning to collapse. SSSS. The skin on the surface of his body began to rupture. Scarlet blood vessels were exposed. His blood-red muscles were clearly exposed. However, his muscles were still slowly tearing apart. Qin Yu felt heart-piercing pain. This was not merely the tearing of his skin and muscles. This pain originated from the collapse of the cells in the deepest part of his body. Even his heart, lungs, and other organs were beginning to slowly collapse. It was extremely painful. A fellow who thinks himself infallible. He actually dared to come to the 14-star Emperor-level Dark Star without having sufficient confidence in his cultivation on the 13-star Emperor-level Dark Star. A grim voice sounded from the side. Qin Yu turned his head around with difficulty. It was a robust youth who was in a better state than him. Compared to Qin Yu, that youth's skin was also ruptured. However, his muscles were still fine. Merely, that youth's body was emitting a series of crackling sounds. That youth was also kneeling on one knee and supporting himself with his hands. You're not much better off than me. Qin Yu tried his best to say those words. However, the muscles in his throat were in extreme pain. Qin Yu knew very well that his muscles should still be a distance away from reaching the level of a 14-star emperor. However, it shouldn't be too far away. If it was too far away, his muscles would likely instantly turn into dust. As for his bones, they had reached the level of a 15-star emperor. In this place, his bones were still rather relaxed. As for that youth not far away, his bones were being subjected to extreme pressure and were emitting crackling sounds non-stop. There's metal attribute energy in this place? Qin Yu was able to sense the energy in this place with his soul power. It should be some conversion formation that the seniors of the Dark Star realm prepared for the latecomers. Qin Yu understood in his heart. Immediately, he began to absorb the metal attribute energy from the outside world. Just like that, Qin Yu was kneeling on one knee. With great effort, he crawled 3 steps out of the range of the teleportation formation. After that, he sat down cross-legged. The condition of his muscles could not be considered to be that bad. Although his skin and other weaker areas were rupturing, the life origin energy contained within each and every one of his cells was causing Qin Yu's injuries to heal at a frightening speed. His skin ruptured and healed. His muscles slowly tore apart and healed by the life origin energy. The life origin energy was also causing Qin Yu's muscles to slowly transform. As for Qin Yu, he was absorbing the metal attribute energy unceasingly, causing his muscles to improve at an extreme speed. Sitting cross-legged for an entire year. A year later, Qin Yu opened his eyes. My muscles have now reached the level of a 14-star emperor. Qin Yu propped himself up with his hands and stood up. When Qin Yu stood up, a voice sounded. You've succeeded in your cultivation? Qin Yu looked towards the source of the voice. Not far away from Qin Yu, about 10 meters away from him, there was a robust and naked man wearing only shorts. Not only that man, Qin Yu was also only wearing shorts made of the gold attribute energy. His upper body and thighs were both naked. In fact, even his feet were bare. After all, his skin was rupturing and blood was flowing out. Under such circumstances, wearing clothes was extremely uncomfortable. Didn't you say that I was overestimating my capabilities? Qin Yu said with a smile. That robust man also tried his best to stand up. However, his skin was still rupturing with small cracks from time to time. That robust man smiled at Qin Yu and said, In that case, I apologize to you. However, you are truly amazing. In merely a year, You're able to completely stand on this 14-star Emperor-level dark star. Furthermore, you're completely unharmed. Qin Yu understood in his heart that the reason why he was able to succeed so quickly was inseparable from the life origin energy. Let me introduce myself. My name is Meng Long. That robust man said with a grin. My name is Lu Xing, Qin Yu said. Meng Long nodded his head. Then he said, you can continue with your cultivation. However, don't be too anxious this time. A year ago, when you had just come out from the teleportation array, your muscles had clearly not reached the endurance level of a 14-star Emperor level. I had thought that you would immediately flee back. Who would have thought that you would actually persist until today, and even succeed? Last time, I wasn't careful enough. This time, I will be careful. Meng Long, I'm going to go cultivate now. Qin Yu said with a smile. Meng Long nodded his head. Then, he immediately sat down cross-legged. Actually, when he stood up with his legs earlier, the pressure on his muscles and bones was truly too great. With his current muscles and bones, he was still unable to completely withstand that frightening gravitational force while standing. As for Qin Yu, he was slowly walking with a strolling speed. It's been a long time since I've felt this kind of extreme state. Qin Yu felt as if every part of his body was being subjected to an extremely frightening pressure. According to the description of the science and technology planet that my master gave me, for dark stars like white dwarf stars and neutron stars, dark stars with frightening gravitational forces, a cubic centimeter of matter would be comparable to the weight of a mountain. However, this is the immortal devil and demon realm. It's a cosmic space of a higher level than the mortal realm. The dark stars here seem to be different from the dark stars of the mortal realm. Qin Yu looked at the ground beneath his feet. It was indeed different. According to Qin Yu's understanding, the dark stars of the science and technology universe of the mortal realm ought to be formed from the later stages of evolution of stars. So much so that neutron stars could be considered as complete giant atomic nuclei. Science and technology? To me, that doesn't seem to be feasible. Qin Yu smiled as he walked on the dark star. Among the 18 Emperor-level dark stars, this was the 14th one. It ought to have an extremely frightening gravitational force. According to Qin Yu's estimation, it ought to be comparable to the neutron stars of the mortal realm. However, as a human, he was actually able to walk on it alive. The complete collapse of his cells seemed to have happened before. However, after the transformation of his cells, the energy of his cells had become even stronger. It was completely capable of withstanding the gravitational force of the dark star beneath his feet. Qin Yu spread out his soul's power. Amen. This dark star is actually capable of attracting soul's power? Qin Yu was shocked to discover that the frightening gravitational force of this dark star actually had an effect on soul's power. However, Qin Yu had the assistance of Lu Xing's tear, and was still able to observe the entire dark star. This dark star was very small. To be exact, dark stars were generally very small. This dark star only had a diameter of about 1,000 miles. If this was an ordinary mortal realm, Qin Yu reckoned that he would have been able to pass through it in a blink of an eye. However, what about now? If he were to walk 1,000 miles at the speed of a stroll, how long would it take? If he were to walk 100 miles in a day, he reckoned that it would take him 10 whole days. Furthermore, that was only the diameter of the dark star. He reckoned that it would take him more than a month to go around the dark star. On this 14-star Emperor-level dark star, there's only me and that Meng Long. This is exactly as I had anticipated. However, there's actually liquid on this dark star? Qin Yu was a bit surprised. Earlier, his soul's power had discovered that there was a 2-meter-long and 1-meter-wide crater 300 miles away from him. Inside the crater was a green-colored liquid. There was liquid on the dark star? With Qin Yu's understanding of neutron stars, he was unable to explain it at all. Qin Yu could only comfort himself with the fact that this was the immortal, devil and demon realm. It was a cosmic space that was higher than the mortal realm. Sigh, 300 miles. So far. Qin Yu sighed deeply. Qin Yu's muscle strength had already reached its limit. Only then was he able to reach the speed of a stroll, walking 300 miles at this speed. Perhaps only on the dark star would Qin Yu feel that 300 miles was an extremely far distance. Qin Yu simply didn't know that Meng Long, who couldn't even stand for a while, was currently envious of him for being able to stroll. After a day, huff, Qin Yu was gasping for breath. Wearing only shorts, Qin Yu's upper body and thighs were covered in sweat. However, they were immediately crushed by the frightening gravitational force. Every single muscle on Qin Yu's body was trembling. After an entire day of strolling, Qin Yu had been using his muscle strength to the limit. At this moment, Qin Yu could clearly feel the soreness in his muscles. Fortunately, he had the origin life energy that was constantly healing his muscles. Otherwise, walking continuously for an entire day would simply be wishful thinking. As he walked step by step, he raised his head and saw the boundless outer space. There were no celestial bodies near this dark star at all. After all, the gravitational force of this dark star was too strong. There were only a few small celestial bodies far away. What exactly is the liquid on the dark star? Amen, let's continue walking. Qin Yu clenched his teeth and continued to walk step by step. The muscles in his entire body that were stretched to their limits were unceasingly twisting and turning. On this dark star with an extremely strong gravitational force, Qin Yu continued to walk step by step. Every single step was as heavy as Mount Tai. Chapter 446. The dark star was evolved from a star. Its surface temperature was extremely terrifying. Under that temperature, even steel would be turned into gas. However, to Qin Yu this temperature was nothing. After all, with Qin Yu's current body, he would not be harmed by the blue heavenly flames. As for the extremely silent heavenly flames, Qin Yu's current body was still slightly weaker than the extremely silent heavenly flames. This gravity is also terrifyingly strong. Qin Yu's muscles were stretched to their limits. Every step Qin Yu took was extremely heavy. With the assistance of the life elemental energy, Qin Yu was able to persist until he reached his destination. Qin Yu had been curious the entire time. A liquid that could exist on a dark star. According to Qin Yu's estimation, with the gravity of a 14-star Emperor-level dark star, even a mountain would instantly collapse and be compressed into something the size of a finger. As for ordinary liquids, they would most likely be compressed until they disappeared. As for this green liquid, it was a small pond. Amen. When he was about 30 miles away from the pond of green liquid, Qin Yu felt the surrounding temperature suddenly drop. Even the temperature of the solid dark star beneath his feet started to drop. While feeling puzzled, Qin Yu continued to advance. When he was 20 miles away from the pond of green liquid, the temperature had dropped to a level that mortals could endure. Could it be that the front is terrifyingly cold? While feeling puzzled, Qin Yu continued to advance. He was constantly guessing in his heart, and his guesses were constantly changing. When he was 10 miles away from the pond of green liquid, Qin Yu's body trembled. He thought to himself, the temperature is already so low. It should be comparable to the power of the jade smoke cold air. When he was about 1.5 miles away from the pond of green liquid, Qin Yu felt a bone-chilling cold. The temperature here is definitely comparable to the weeping gold cold air. The flames were divided into heaven flames, blue heavenly flames, and extremely silent heavenly flames. As for the cold air, it was divided into jade smoke cold air, weeping gold cold air, and ice soul cold air. When he was still 3 miles away from the pond of green liquid, the surrounding temperature was comparable to the weeping gold cold air. From this, one could imagine how terrifying the temperature of the green liquid was. In the beginning, when Qin Yu used his soul power to observe, his soul power was only able to observe some scenes. It was unable to feel the cold or heat at all. This is way too cold. Qin Yu looked at the ground beneath his feet, and his expression changed. The dark star could be considered a solid object that was completely condensed by a terrifying gravitational force. When Qin Yu first came out of the teleportation array, the dark star under his feet had completely solidified, as if it was a hole. However, at this moment, the ground of the dark star beneath their feet had started to crack due to the frightening coldness. Even the terrifying gravitational force of the dark star was unable to completely condense them together. One could imagine how cold the temperature was. At this moment, Qingyu was about 600 meters away from the green liquid pool. What is this green liquid? I want to have a good look at it. Qingyu stubbornly continued to approach the green liquid pool. The extremely low coldness caused all of the muscles in Qinyu's body to begin to tremble from the inside out. Trembling represented that Qinyu's endurance had reached a critical point. But fortunately, at least his muscles were still able to tremble. If he was frozen to the point where his muscles wouldn't tremble, then the insides of his muscles might have been frozen and cracked. Qingyu continued to advance one step at a time. SSSS. The muscles of his left arm, which had already turned white, began to split open. Before the bright red blood could flow out, it had already been frozen into a dark red color. Qingyu frowned. However, he still took another step forward. SSSS. His thighs, left side of his face, and chest were instantly frozen and cracked open. Qinyu's footsteps came to a sudden halt. It seems I can't continue forward. If I continue forward, most likely all of my muscles will be frozen to death. Even my elemental life force won't be able to repair them in time. Qingyu understood the current state of his body very well. Every single part of his muscles was trembling violently. Even his tiny cells were moving violently, as though they wanted to rely on this to generate some heat to counteract the coldness. His powerful muscles, under the cold, were slowly beginning to tear apart, while his elemental life force was constantly repairing them. At this moment, he had reached his limit. The distance between Qinyu's feet and the distant pool of jade green liquid was over 300 meters. The coldness of this place is already very close to that of the ice soul frigid qi. Most likely, at a distance of 200 meters, the temperature of the ice soul frigid qi would be comparable. What exactly is that jade green pool of water? Its temperature is actually lower than that of the ice soul frigid qi. The ice soul frigid qi was on the same level as the extremely silent heavenly flames. Ordinary low-quality divine artifacts would even be frozen to death. Most likely, even mid-quality divine artifacts wouldn't be able to withstand it. Only high-quality divine artifacts would be undamaged by the ice soul frigid qi. From this, one could imagine how tyrannical it was. But this green liquid seemed to be much more terrifying than the ice soul frigid qi. Where did this green liquid come from? Qingyu pondered. Such a powerful green liquid. Qingyu was certain that this thing definitely had a great use. However, how was he supposed to retrieve it? Retrieve that green liquid with my gold force? Qingyu pondered. That won't do. Under the gravitational force of the dark star, my gold force would only be able to reach several tens of meters away from my body. Furthermore, under such cold air, even my gold force would not be able to withstand it. Qingyu immediately rejected the first method. What about the Jianglan's realm? Although the Jianglan's realm was capable of taking things into it, it could not be too far away. At the same time, it also depended on what the thing was. If it was a person, then that person would not be able to resist. If it was an object, for example a dark star, the Jianglan's realm would not be able to take it in. As for this pool of liquid, if it was close enough, then it should be possible. Suddenly, Qinyu's eyes shined. At this moment, I can only trust Uncle Lan. A human figure split out from Qinyu's body. It was the sword immortal puppet. The sword immortal puppet's toughness is much stronger than my current body. I reckon it will be able to withstand it. Qinyu's awareness entered the sword immortal puppet. He then prepared to control the sword immortal puppet to move forward. However, at the moment when Qinyu's body leaned forward and was about to move forward, boom! The sword immortal puppet was crushed to the ground. The sword immortal puppet's body was indeed very valiant. Even under the gravitational force of the 14-star Emperor level dark star, it was not damaged in the slightest. Even under the corrosion of the ice soul cold air, it was not damaged in the slightest. However, the sword immortal puppet's strength was at the very most that of a level 9 golden immortal. Controlling the sword immortal puppet with the strength of a level 9 golden immortal was simply unable to take a step forward on the 14-star Emperor level dark star. Earlier it was still fine standing. However, once it took a step forward, it lost its balance and was crushed to the ground. It would appear that I will not be able to obtain that green liquid. Qingyu laughed at himself. Then, he directly took the sword immortal puppet back into his body. If he were to help me, then that might not necessarily be the case. Qingyu suddenly thought of a person. After that he disappeared into thin air. A speck of green appeared on the dark star. Times inside the Jianglan's realm. Wu Lan and He Tong were sitting on the side. As for Guofan, he was bitterly training. Wu Lan casually spoke a few words and Guofan began to ponder over what Wu Lan had said. Then he continued to train. Uncle Wu Lan, my uncle has come. He Tong suddenly said. There was only a single person that He Tong addressed as uncle. That person was Qingyu. Wu Lan turned around to look. He then smiled and said. Qingyu, didn't you say last time that you were going to the Dark Star to train? How come you've come here? I have already arrived at the Dark Star. Not long ago, I discovered some liquid on the Dark Star. However, that liquid was terrifyingly cold. I was also unable to obtain it. Thus, I wish to ask for your help, Wu Lan. With the valiance of your body, you ought to be able to get close to it. Qingyu went straight to the point. Hearing that, Wu Lan asked in confusion. You said liquid? Wu Lan, you can send out your demon awareness to inspect it. Qingyu controlled the Jianglan's realm to not restrict Wu Lan's demon awareness. Wu Lan nodded and then sent out his demon awareness. After a short period of time. How is it? Qingyu looked to Wu Lan. Wu Lan smiled and said. Never would I have expected that such a thing would appear on a dark star. That jade green liquid, if my guess is correct, it ought to be the unitary heavy water. Unitary heavy water? Qingyu was a bit puzzled. He had never heard of the name unitary heavy water. Wu Lan explained. The unitary heavy water is a cold attribute liquid energy, on the same level as the divine flame. Merely compared to the divine flame, this unitary heavy water is even rarer. Back then when I was in the divine realm, I had only seen it once. Rarer? Could it be that this unitary heavy water is very hard to obtain? Although he had yet to enter the divine realm, Qingyu was already impatient to know more about the divine realm. Wu Lan laughed at himself and said, My status in the divine realm is not high. Thus, I do not know a lot of things. However, I know that the true flames within the bodies of deities are usually the black divine flames. Thus, there are a lot of people who use the black divine flames. However, I have only seen people who used the unitary heavy water once. Qingyu listened attentively. That time, I was lucky and saw the master of the bewitching god temple crafting artifacts. At that time, I had already seen the master of the bewitching god temple using the unitary heavy water. Wu Lan explained in detail. Qingyu was startled. Wu Lan, you said that the master of the bewitching god temple was crafting artifacts? Qingyu wanted to know everything about the master of the bewitching god temple. Wu Lan nodded and said, The master of the bewitching god temple is also an extraordinary person in the divine realm. Of course, I reckon that the master of the bewitching god temple is not as powerful as that Uncle Lan of yours. Qingyu started laughing. How do you know that he's not as powerful as Uncle Lan? Wu Lan said as if it was a matter of course. Is there even a need to ask? Just by looking at this Jianglan's realm, to be able to craft the Jianglan's realm, is there even a need to talk about his status in the divine realm? Although the master of the bewitching god temple is extraordinary, it's still impossible for him to reach that level. If the master of the bewitching god temple were to match up to that Uncle Lan of yours, then he wouldn't have come to the immortal devil and demon realm from the divine realm with such great fanfare. That would be troublesome. Qingyu nodded to indicate that he understood. After knowing about Uncle Lan's strength, Qingyu was even more certain that Li Er ought to be in the divine realm. I reckon that Uncle Lan and Li Er must have had something to do in the mortal realm's purple mystic star. To meet them, I wonder when I'll be able to. Qingyu sighed in his heart. When he was training in the mortal realm, Qingyu still felt that finding Li Er was still far away. However now, Qingyu at least knew that as long as he ascended to the divine realm, He ought to be able to find Li air. Oh Wulan. Qin Yu woke up and asked. This unitary heavy water. Are you certain that you'll be able to bring them in? Wulan muttered. Unitary heavy water. I've never touched it in the divine realm. I am not afraid of ordinary divine flames. However, unitary heavy water? It's truly hard to say. Wulan was also not certain. Wulan, help me give it a try, said Qin Yu. Right now, Qin Yu could only ask Wulan for help. Wulan muttered to himself for a moment, and then said, How about this? Let me enter the dark star and give it a try. Of course. If I fail, then there's nothing we can do. In that case, thank you very much. Qin Yu was overjoyed. Eldest uncle, that unitary heavy water that you're all talking about, is it very powerful? He Tong, who was listening to them, asked. Qin Yu stroked He Tong's head lovingly. He smiled and said, Of course it's powerful. Even your eldest uncle, I am unable to get close to it. Tell me, is it powerful or not? After that, Qin Yu looked to Wulan. Wulan nodded. Qin Yu then brought Wulan out of the Jianglan's realm. Times on the 14-star Emperor level Dark Star. Qin Yu and Wulan suddenly appeared on the Dark Star. Upon returning to the Dark Star, Qin Yu once again felt that frightening pressure. However, Wulan appeared on the Dark Star, as if he did not feel it in the slightest. The pressure here is pretty good. Wulan seemed to be unable to feel that frightening gravitational force. He then looked to the dark green-colored cold pond over 300 meters away and asked Qin Yu. That's it, right? Qin Yu nodded. Wulan, if you can't hold on, then don't force yourself. You're too far away from me. Even if I wanted you to enter the Jianglan's realm, I would not be able to. Qin Yu carefully instructed. Indeed, this was very dangerous. If Wulan were to encounter any danger beside the cold pond, Qin Yu would likely not be able to save him. Don't worry. Wulan smiled confidently. Then with a step he shot toward the cold pond like an arrow. Qin Yu was even able to see an afterimage. On the 14-star Emperor level Dark Star, one's speed was so fast that one could only see afterimages. On the Dark Star, such a fast speed. Is his body able to withstand it? Qin Yu was astonished. This was the first time that he discovered that he had underestimated Wulan. Qin Yu, I forgot to tell you. Back then, when I saw the master of the bewitching god temple crafting artifacts, I was only several meters away from the master of the bewitching god temple, and also several meters away from the unitary heavy water. At the very least, approaching the unitary heavy water is still very easy for me. Wulan's mind-voice transmission sounded in Qin Yu's mind. Qin Yu displayed a smile on his face. 300 meters, if Qin Yu were to walk, it would likely take him a long time. As for Wulan, with 2 jumps like an arrow, he arrived beside the dark green-colored cold pond. Wulan's expression began to change. It became serious, and was no longer as relaxed as before. The unitary heavy water was too cold. Ordinary storage rings were simply unable to withstand it. Even low-quality and mid-quality divine artifacts were unable to withstand it. Not to mention ordinary storage rings. Wulan, use your body's energy to envelop the unitary heavy water. Qin Yu said via mind-voice transmission. No, under the unitary heavy water, my demon elemental energy would likely be corroded the moment it enters. How could obtaining the unitary heavy water be as simple as Qin Yu thought? Wulan could only rely on his 2 hands. A faint black light began to envelop Wulan's right hand. Qin Yu remembered that when Wulan fought against the Peng Demon Emperor, his entire body, and both his hands, were also covered with a layer of black light. Wulan's right hand that was covered with black light slowly extended into the dark green-colored cold pond. Chapter 447. Qin Yu held his breath as he stared at Wulan in the distance. Wulan's right hand, that was flowing with black light, slowly touched the jade-green liquid. However, Wulan's right hand actually trembled. Even Wulan is unable to withstand this unitary heavy water? Qin Yu's heart was raised. Wulan's right hand slightly paused. After a moment he pulled it back with lightning speed. Wulan's body moved continuously. In an instant he arrived beside Qin Yu. What's wrong, Wulan? Qin Yu already had a bad premonition in his heart. Wu Lan's expression was somewhat solemn. At this moment, the skin on Wu Lan's right hand was frozen pale white. Wu Lan's gaze was still fixed on the jade-green cold pond in the distance. He said in a low voice, "Qin Yu, I am certain that the jade-green cold pond is not a simple unitary heavy water. What's going on?" Qin Yu did not know what had happened at all. He himself only saw Wu Lan's right hand reaching into the cold pond and stopping for a moment. Wu Lan suddenly smiled. He looked at Qin Yu and said with a chuckle, "Qin Yu, when I reached my hand into the unitary heavy water, I felt that there was a mysterious thing at the bottom of the unitary heavy water." Mysterious thing? Qin Yu looked at Wu Lan with a confused expression. "That's right. If it was only the unitary heavy water, my hands would be able to withstand it. However, when I reached my hand into the cold pond, an extremely sharp cold air corroded my right hand. The cold air emitted from the cold air was even more powerful than the unitary heavy water. The thing that emitted that sharp cold air should be some mysterious thing at the bottom of the cold pond. Right now even my right hand is injured." Wu Lan laughed at himself. Qin Yu shook his head and said helplessly, "It seems that thing does not belong to me. There's no need for me to ask for it." "No." Wu Lan smiled and said, "Don't give up. It's possible for you to obtain that thing. Tell me about it." Qin Yu's eyes shined. Wu Lan said in detail, "Earlier, when I reached my hand into the cold pond, I was certain of one thing. Even a high-quality divine artifact would not be able to withstand it. Thus, it's impossible to obtain the unitary heavy water and the thing inside the cold pond. So there's only one way. Storage space. You said, Jianglan's realm?" Qin Yu frowned. Wu Lan nodded and said with a smile, "Qin Yu, think about it. That thing has always been here. Yet, the three great sovereigns of the Dark Star realm did not take it away at all. Evidently, even the three great sovereigns of the Dark Star realm were unable to remove the cold pond. As for ordinary storage rings, even if they are storage-type divine artifacts, they can't even withstand the first essence heavy water, much less the things at the bottom of the first essence heavy water cold pond. Isn't the Jianglan's realm also a spatial divine artifact?" Qin Yu asked in confusion. Wu Lan sneered. "Divine artifact? You truly look down on the Jianglan's realm too much." Qin Yu's eyes lit up. "Wu Lan, what do you mean by that?" "It's useless to tell you now. You'll know when you reach the God realm. Divine artifact? Think about it. The inheritance treasure of the Dragon clan and the inheritance treasure of the Rock clan. Which one of them isn't more powerful than a high-grade divine artifact? This Jianglan's realm is also the most precious treasure that I've ever seen since I was born," said Wu Lan as he sighed. Qin Yu did not ask anymore. He knew that Wu Lan did not want to talk about it. If he wanted to talk about it, he would naturally talk about it. "You can consider the Jianglan's realm as a space. This is not a space without any life like a storage ring. This space is a space similar to the cosmic space. Although it's not as high level as the cosmic space, it's still relatively close. As long as you're able to approach the cold pond, you'll be able to use the Jianglan's realm to directly absorb the cold pond into the Jianglan's realm," said Wu Lan with certainty. Qin Yu pondered for a moment. He then looked to Wu Lan and asked, "In that case, what level of strength would one need to reach in order to approach the cold pond?" "What level of strength? When one's body is comparable to a high-grade divine artifact, that would be about it," said Wu Lan with a light smile. "However, in the immortal devil and demon realm, I reckon that you wouldn't be able to use this sort of treasure." Qin Yu did not think too much about it. In the immortal devil and demon realm, even now, there were not many people that could defeat him. His goal was the divine realm to begin with. After all, Li Er was in the divine realm. Even with Uncle Lan's ability, he was only able to protect Li Er from being forced to do so. One could imagine the difficulties he would face after arriving in the divine realm. Identity, strength, status, regardless of which realm one was in, they were all very important. After all these years of training, Qin Yu naturally understood them very well. He had never thought that once he arrived in the divine realm, Li Er's father would directly give Li Er to him. Everything required his own efforts. High-quality divine artifact, right? Got it. Qinyu said to Wulan with a smile. Wulan, thank you for these. I'll send you back to the Jianglan's realm right away. Wulan smiled and nodded. Continue to work hard, Qinyu. I advise you, it's best for you to get used to moving under great pressure. Wulan, what do you mean by that? Qinyu was puzzled by Wulan's advice. Aya, this dark star's gravity is truly unbearable. Qinyu, let me return to the Jianglan's realm. Wulan changed the topic. Qinyu felt helpless in his heart. He understood that Wulan did not wish to say any more. Soon after, with an intention from Qinyu, Wulan disappeared from the dark star. Times properly train on the dark star. Once you've successfully trained, go to the bewitching god temple. Qinyu had a plan in his heart. As long as it was something that would be helpful to him in the divine realm in the future, Qinyu would strive for it. Qinyu looked to his surroundings. Sensing the bone-penetrating coldness, he slightly nodded. The conditions here are just right for training. Cold gravity. Soon after, Qinyu began to run. He was no longer strolling but running. Qinyu's expression was firm. The muscles on his legs were bulging. With every step he took, he smashed the ground. Qinyu circled around the jade-green-colored cold pond. With the cold pond as the center, he was unceasingly running in a circle of over 300 meters. This was the limit of the coldness that Qinyu was currently able to endure. Under the limit of his body, the life elemental energy was unceasingly assimilating into Qinyu's muscles, allowing Qinyu's muscles to get used to the coldness. Running, the simplest kind of running. Qinyu had been running for an entire 3 years. With the assistance of Qinyu's life elemental energy, his progress in these 3 years was extremely great. His current speed was much faster than before. However, even with this, Qinyu was still only able to approach 10 meters from the cold pond. Now let's run with weights. Qinyu felt that his muscles had improved a lot. Qinyu cast his gaze to the ground. Under that frightening coldness, the ground of this dark star had already cracked open and formed strips. Qinyu used both hands to grab one end of the strip, then fiercely tried to break it. But Qinyu discovered, to his astonishment, that he wasn't able to break it at all. This material is tough enough. Qinyu suddenly produced the medium-grade divine artifact, Sky Splitter. In terms of toughness, the Sky Splitter was much tougher than the dark star material, but it was also much sharper. Qinyu chopped down with all his might. After expending a great deal of energy, he finally managed to cut it off. This strip was only a finger wide and a finger thick. It could be called a staff. It was so thin that Qinyu had to rely on the sharpness of his divine artifact to cut it off. This was a dark red strip that was 3 inches long, 1 finger wide, and 1 finger thick. Qinyu used both hands to try and pick it up. But no matter how much energy Qinyu used, he wasn't able to pick up this 3-inch long strip. He couldn't even move it. Qinyu had no idea that this dark red strip, even on an ordinary planet, would weigh more than a mountain. To be able to exist under the gravity of the dark star, one could well imagine how dense this dark red strip was. And in a place like the dark star, where the gravity was so frightening, it was over 100,000 times stronger than Qinyu's. Although it appeared to be very small, how could Qinyu possibly move it? Then how am I supposed to carry this weight? Qinyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Immediately after, he looked to the divine sword Sky Splitter in his hand. The divine sword Sky Splitter had already recognized him as its master. In Qinyu's hand, it didn't have the slightest weight. Gravity restriction. Qinyu suddenly slapped his head. I actually forgot about the gravity restriction. As he said that, he set up a gravity restriction with both hands. He only increased the gravity by 30%. This gravity restriction secret technique was something that practically every single person in the Dark Star realm knew. When Qinyu had searched Suzong's soul, he had also learned about this relatively elementary gravity restriction. It's truly heavy. It's only 30%. Qinyu felt that his entire body had suddenly sunk. It was as if even standing up had become a burden. Qinyu suddenly started to laugh. He thought of his childhood. During his childhood, he would also run while carrying weights and frantically train his body. compared to his childhood. What he was currently standing on was not the mountain path of the East Hazy Mountain. Instead, it was the 14-star Emperor-level Dark Star of the Dark Star realm. During his childhood, he would carry weights such as stones on his back. And now, Qin Yu was relying on the gravity restriction of the Dark Star realm to increase the gravity. Although it was only 30% of his body weight, under the gravity of the Dark Star, it surpassed 100 East Hazy Mountains. The sound of footsteps sounded. Qin Yu resolutely began to run step by step. As he ran, a peaceful smile appeared on Qin Yu's face. As his consciousness grew fuzzy, Qin Yu felt as if the Dark Star beneath his feet had turned into the mountain path of the East Hazy Mountain. And behind him, a familiar voice seemed to sound. Faster, faster. That voice was the voice of his first teacher, Zhao Yunxing. Qin Yu was running non-stop. Sweat unceasingly emerged from his entire body. The sweat droplets were instantly extinguished by the terrifying gravity. Qin Yu still remembered that before he entered the 14-star Emperor-level Dark Star, there was a message in the jade slip that Elder Ji Qiao gave him. Do not use transmission spiritual pearls on the Dark Star. Under that sort of frightening gravitational force, the transmission spiritual pearl would completely collapse and be destroyed. Even Qin Yu's sword immortal puppet was pressed down. One could imagine how powerful the gravity was. The sweat droplets did not even have the qualifications to exist. Running step by step, Qin Yu's gaze was incomparably resolute. 100 years later, the gravity restriction on Qin Yu's body had increased his weight by 4 times. Qin Yu was still running. His gaze was still as resolute as before. An entire 100 years of running. Actually, under this sort of pressure, as long as one could stand, one's body would be unceasingly transforming. As for Qin Yu, while running like this, every muscle in his body, with the assistance of the elemental life energy, was rapidly evolving. An entire 100 years of cultivation. Right now my muscles should have reached 15-star Emperor level. In these several days, Qin Yu was able to sense that his bones and muscles were also slowly transforming under the weight of running. Evidently his muscles and bones were already at the same level. He looked at the cracked Dark Star strip beneath his feet. This thing is extremely heavy. Bringing it to the Dark Star realm can also be considered as showing it to Little Tong and them. Qin Yu used his divine sword Sky Piercer to cut off the 3 dark red strips. Although he was unable to use his hands to hold them, he was able to use the Jianglan's realm to collect them. With an intention, Qin Yu collected the 3 dark red strips into the Jianglan's realm. Qin Yu turned around and took a glance at the jade green-colored cold pond not far away. I can only come back when I reach 17-star Emperor level. Immediately after, Qin Yu began to run toward the interstellar conveying array. This time around, Qin Yu removed the gravity restriction. Qin Yu's running speed was still extremely fast. In merely half a day, Qin Yu arrived at the location of the interstellar conveying array. Not far from the interstellar conveying array, Qin Yu saw Meng Long, who was walking step by step. Evidently, Meng Long had only managed to slowly walk after 100 years of cultivation. Meng Long looked at Qin Yu, who was rapidly running toward him in disbelief. Meng Long, Qin Yu greeted him with a smile. Meng Long stuttered. He pointed at Qin Yu and said in disbelief, You've already succeeded in your cultivation? One must know that the further one cultivated, the harder it would be. Meng Long's own cultivation speed was already extremely fast. However, the plan that Meng Long had for himself was to be able to stand and walk in 100 years, to be able to run normally in 10,000 years, to be able to run with double his body weight in 100,000 years, and to be able to run with double his body weight in 1,000,000 years. His plan was a 1,000,000-year plan. However, what about Qin Yu? How long had it been? How could he not be shocked? He even felt that his brain was shaking. Qin Yu nodded and smiled. That's right. I've succeeded. I think that I can step into the 15-star Emperor level Dark Star now. If one could run normally while carrying double his body weight, it would be considered a success. However, Qin Yu was now able to carry 4 times his body weight. How is this possible? How could you be so fast? Meng Long was unable to accept this. Qin Yu also knew that his cultivation speed was somewhat frightening. He immediately smiled and said, "Perhaps it's because my aptitude is good. Meng Long, I'll be leaving first." Qin Yu did not say anything else, and directly walked into the interstellar conveying array. This interstellar conveying array was specially made. Furthermore, it did not require elemental spirit stones to provide energy. Instead, it required the cultivator to pour in their own energy. After all, elemental spirit stones were unable to exist on a dark star like this. After pouring in the gold force, the entire interstellar conveying array lit up. In 100 years, Qin Yu's muscles had completely reached the level of a 15-star Emperor-level dark star. It might even be slightly higher. Seeing Qin Yu disappear, Meng Long still felt a bit dizzy. How is this possible? I saw with my own eyes that his muscles were unable to withstand the pressure at the beginning. Could it be that he was faking it from the beginning? No, that can't be right. What was he faking to me? Meng Long was unable to understand how that Lu Xing was able to cultivate so quickly. Times trial sacred planet. On the transfer planet of the 36 trial planets, the interstellar conveying array on the first floor of the 14-star Emperor-level building lit up. It immediately attracted the attention of many people. Lord Lu Xing, hello. Elder Ji Qiao said to Qin Yu with a smile. Lord, have you succeeded in your trial? Qin Yu felt a bit helpless in his heart. He knew that if he were to continue cultivating on the dark stars one by one, his astonishing cultivation speed would definitely shock others. Forget it. Who cares what others think? I'll just let them think that I'm a genius. In the end, Qin Yu could only make such a decision. Qin Yu nodded to Elder Ji Qiao and said, Right. Lord Lu Xing, please wait a moment. I'll prepare the 14-star Emperor-level title plate, said Elder Ji Qiao with a smile. Chapter 448. To Qin Yu, this title plate was very important. Firstly, it would allow him to continue training on the 15-star Emperor-level Dark Star. Secondly, it was a symbol of his status. It would also allow Qin Yu to move about in the Dark Star realm more easily. Elder Ji Qiao took out a triangular prism-shaped crystal pillar. That crystal pillar shot out a misty light that covered Qin Yu. Lord Lu Xing has never received an Emperor-level title plate before? Elder Ji Qiao looked to Qin Yu with an astonished expression. According to the rules, when a new Emperor-level title plate is given, the original Emperor-level title plate must be taken back. Qin Yu had seen the jade strip before. Thus he knew about this matter. He explained, I have never trained on the Dark Star before. So that's the case. Elder Ji Qiao nodded with a smile. However, he was still shocked in his heart. After that, Elder Ji Qiao took out a title plate that resembled a star diamond and handed it to Qin Yu. My lord, this is the 14-star Emperor-level title plate. My lord, you can drip your blood on it to recognize it as your master. Qin Yu received the title plate. The title plate was somewhat transparent. It was emitting 3 different colors. On the front side of the title plate was the word Emperor. On the back side was the word 14. After Qin Yu dripped his blood on the title plate, he absorbed it into his body. Elder Ji Qiao, farewell, Qin Yu said, and then walked out of the entrance. Many of the bystanders hurriedly opened up a path for him. As they watched Qin Yu walk toward the 15-star Emperor-level building, this group of people began to discuss among themselves. On one of the 3 great sacred planets of the Dark Star realm, the Gold Punishment Star. During the period when Qin Yu was training, the new Gold Punishment Lord of the Dark Star realm had ascended to the throne. Furthermore, he had made it public. At this moment, the Gold Punishment Lord and a group of people were gathered in a large hall in the Gold Punishment sect. The Gold Punishment Lord sat on the master seat. There were a total of 6 people on the guest seats. At this moment, a person stood up and reported respectfully, Your Majesty, news has arrived from the trial star. Of the 2 lords that entered the 14-star Emperor-level Dark Star back then, one has come out. It's Lord Lu Xing, Lu Xing. He is now a member of the Deep Mulberry Star. In the past, he was an obscure interstellar cultivator, said the Gold Punishment Lord indifferently. The new gold punishment lord's real name was Xing Yuan. Originally, he could be considered to be an obscure ascetic cultivator. Later on, he emerged from the 18-star emperor level Dark Star. With his overwhelming strength, he unquestionably became the new generation's gold punishment lord. The gold punishment lord Xing Yuan continued. According to the information sent by Wen Feng, this Lu Xing's strength should not be inferior to Wen Feng's. In that case, why did this Lu Xing enter the 14-star emperor level Dark Star? I reckon that this Lu Xing's strength is at the 15-star emperor level. According to our intelligence, this Lu Xing has never cultivated on a Dark Star before. Perhaps he is not confident. Thus, he decided to cultivate on the 14-star emperor level Dark Star for a period of time before entering the 15-star emperor level Dark Star. A white-bearded old man said with a smile on his face. The gold punishment lord Xing Yuan nodded and said with a smile, "That makes sense. For this Lu Xing to possess such strength, it would appear that he will be the next gold punishment lord candidate." Humph. A cold snort sounded from the left side of the gold punishment lord. It was a cold and detached middle-aged man. The gold punishment lord Xing Yuan lightly smiled and said, "Vice Sect Master, you do not have to worry too much about it. Since he has reached the 15-star emperor level, he is the next gold punishment lord candidate. However, with your 17-star emperor level strength, is there a need to worry about him? Merely, you are the same as me. We do not know when the divine tribulation will descend. Once the divine tribulation occurs, the position of gold punishment lord will be fought over by Lu Xing and Wen Feng." The cold and detached middle-aged man nodded. This person was one of the 3 vice sect masters of the gold punishment sect. His strength was second only to the gold punishment lord Xing Yuan, a 17-star emperor level expert. A gentle breeze brushed past. The countless soft branches of the large tree fluttered in the wind. While drinking wine, Qin Yu looked at the scenery outside through the window. The scenery of the Trial Sacred Planet was pretty good. After Qin Yu exited the 14-star emperor level Dark Star, he did not immediately start training. Instead, he first ate and drank in the dining area on the first floor of the 15-star emperor level building. There was an empty circle around Qin Yu's seat. There were over 100 people in the dining area. However, all of them consciously kept their distance from Qin Yu. This was their respect toward the strong. "That Lord Lu Xing, do you see him? He's the one by the window. I've heard that Lord Lu Xing had only trained in the 14-star emperor level Dark Star for over 100 years before coming out. That speed is truly astonishing," a bald-headed man exclaimed in a low voice. Perhaps Lord Lu Xing's strength was very strong to begin with. A young man by the side casually said. "Not necessarily," the bald-headed man said to the surrounding people in a low voice. "How about this? Let's make a bet on how many years it will take for Lord Lu Xing to enter the 16-star emperor level Dark Star to train. That means he's a genius. At the very least 10,000 years, someone said. The bald-headed man smiled and said, "In that case, let's make a bet on whether Lord Lu Xing will need 10,000 years or less to reach the 16-star emperor level Dark Star from 15 stars or more." "Very well, who will be the banker?" "Lower your voice. My lord has stood up." Seeing Qin Yu stand up, the entire dining area immediately quieted down. Qin Yu smiled and walked toward the attendant. "Bill." That attendant looked at Qin Yu with a trace of adoration in his eyes. He said respectfully, "Lord Lu Xing, there is no need for you to pay the bill. Since Lord wants to enter the 15-star emperor level Dark Star to train, you are qualified to eat here for free." It seems that only those who possess a 15-star emperor level title plate are qualified, right? Qin Yu was puzzled. That attendant shook his head and said, "Elder said that there is no need. He believes that you possess the strength of a 15-star emperor level." Of course, those who dared to enter the 15-star emperor level Dark Star. How many of them did not possess sufficient confidence to enter? Entering without sufficient confidence was no different from committing suicide. Qin Yu walked out of the dining area and entered the main hall. A middle-aged man, who was sitting cross-legged next to the teleportation array, stood up. He walked toward Qin Yu and said respectfully, "Lord Lu Xing, I am the elder in charge of the affairs here. Activate the teleportation array." Qin Yu was very straightforward. On the 15-star Emperor level Dark Star. This time around, it was not as miserable as the last time. When Qin Yu was teleported here, he only felt that his body had slightly sunk. That familiar feeling of heavy pressure had returned. There's actually another person on this planet. Qin Yu's soul power could clearly sense that there was a woman about 20 miles away from here. She's from the White Profound sect. Qin Yu could clearly sense the ice-cold aura emitted from that woman. It is truly rare for a woman to be this powerful. Qin Yu gasped in admiration in his heart. Qin Yu did not waste any time. He immediately set up a gravity restriction and doubled his weight. Amen. Qin Yu suddenly recalled something. Something's wrong. The gravity of these 18 Emperor-level dark stars is gradually increasing. The amount of pressure they can withstand is precisely equivalent to 1-star Emperor level to 18-star Emperor level. However, since that's the case, a single dark star would be sufficient. As long as one cultivates on this dark star and uses the gravity restriction to gradually increase one's weight, it would be sufficient. Why would the seniors of the dark star realm go through so much trouble to find 18 Emperor-level dark stars? Qin Yu was unable to understand. Forget about it. I'm not going to think about it anymore. However, Qin Yu did not know that the seniors of the dark star realm did not spend much effort to find these 18 Emperor-level dark stars. Furthermore, with these 18 Emperor-level dark stars, one would be able to better determine the strength of some people. Only then would the 3 great sacred stars be able to more accurately record the strength of some people. Qin Yu had also decided on one thing. He would train on this 15-star Emperor-level dark star. All he needed to do was to continuously increase his weight. There would be no need for him to enter the other dark stars. Cultivate. Qin Yu took a deep breath. Then he began a long period of cultivation. Experts were lonely. Qin Yu's strength was also accumulated through a long period of loneliness. On this dark star, Qin Yu began to cultivate by himself. 800 years later, Qin Yu, who is only wearing a pair of shorts, is standing upside down with his upper body naked. The 10 fingers of his hands are firmly grasping the ground like the roots of an old tree. His entire body is supported by only the 10 fingers of his hands. At this moment, Qin Yu is still carrying 4 times his body weight. Furthermore, this was a 15-star Emperor-level dark star. Qin Yu understood that his hands would be his strongest weapon in the future. Thus, he must attach great importance to the training of his fingers. Is a high-quality divine artifact truly the limit? While Qin Yu was training, he was still pondering in his heart. Was the 9th layer of the 9 transformations dark gold body the limit? Right at this moment Qin Yu frowned. Then his face was filled with ecstasy. After so many years, my soul realm has finally reached the Great Circle. Qin Yu immediately stopped training and sat down cross-legged. Within his boundless sea of consciousness, Qin Yu's soul was unceasingly rolling. Now Qin Yu's soul was like a thick liquid that was unceasingly rolling. At the same time, sharp sword-like golden light would be emitted from the thick liquid from time to time. According to the 3 souls' 9 refinements, when the soul realm reaches the Great Circle, it can become a substantial existence. A figure appeared in Qin Yu's sea of consciousness. His appearance was exactly the same as Qin Yu. This silhouette was sitting cross-legged. His 2 hands were forming the 3 souls' 9 refinements with a total of 108 hand seals. When Qin Yu started to form the first hand seal, his soul started to flow in an orderly manner like mercury. As the seals were formed one after another, the mercury-like thick liquid flowed faster and faster. When the last seal was formed, boundless sea of consciousness began to tremble. The figure that was sitting cross-legged suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were like torches. Close. Within the crazily trembling sea of consciousness, rays of golden light suddenly lit up. Immediately, his sea of consciousness stopped trembling and returned to its previous tranquility. It could be clearly seen that around Jin Dan was spinning in Qin Yu's sea of consciousness. That was precisely the soul that had reached the Great Circle. Is this the soul of an ordinary true God? Qin Yu looked at the round Jin Dan that was emitting boundless brilliance in his sea of consciousness. The round Jin Dan was so dazzling. Suddenly, an even more astonishing green light shone from another place. The green light immediately covered the golden light of the Jin Dan. His sea of consciousness turned completely green, and the thing that was emitting the boundless green light was an almost transparent teardrop. Lu Xing's teardrop. Qin Yu was astonished. Lu Xing's teardrop suddenly shot out a rainbow-colored light. That rainbow-colored light directly shot into Qin Yu's soul Jin Dan. At this moment, Qin Yu's sea of consciousness was suddenly filled with a large amount of information. These are. Qin Yu was immediately attracted. Soon after, Qin Yu sat cross-legged on the surface of the dark star, not moving at all. Qin Yu began the longest training he had ever done since he was born. Chapter 449. Within Qin Yu's boundless sea of consciousness, Lu Xing's tear was emitting an endless amount of green light. It was so dazzling, and the green light covered everything. Lu Xing's tear was currently emitting a seven-colored brilliance into Qin Yu's soul Jin Dan. As the seven-colored brilliance entered Qin Yu's soul Jin Dan, Lu Xing's tear was actually decreasing at an indiscernible speed. Just as Qin Yu's soul Jin Dan was absorbing the seven-colored brilliance, Qin Yu's consciousness fell into a special situation. An endless sea. At this moment, Qin Yu seemed to have become a drop of sea water, connected with the endless sea water. He felt the vastness of the sea when it was calm, felt the fury of the sea when it was raging, felt the endless depth of the sea. After an unknown amount of time, Qin Yu even believed that he was really a drop of water. Suddenly the sea disappeared. Qin Yu entered a time of plants. There were all kinds of flowers and plants, all kinds of varieties. There were so many that Qin Yu was unable to describe them. And Qin Yu was just an ordinary grass among them. Growing, withering, then sprouting with vitality, continuing to grow, then withering once again. Reincarnation, one reincarnation after another. Within the reincarnation, Qin Yu suddenly felt his surroundings change once again. Everything around him was nothingness. This was outer space. Qin Yu could see the stars in the distance, the blazing sun, and the barren planets. The stars were suspended eternally in outer space, as if they would never change. At times, Qin Yu would become one of the countless weapons. At times, Qin Yu would become a speck of dust in the air. At times, Qin Yu would step into the endless void, and at times, Qin Yu would enter an endless sea of flames. Amidst the layers of mysterious experiences, Qin Yu did not know how much time had passed. As if countless years had passed, a voice sounded. "Child, this is what I left behind before I died. And it contains my comprehension of the universe. You can feel as much as you want. I, Zhuqiumei, have never accepted a disciple in my entire life. You can be considered my disciple. However, you must remember, before you completely comprehend everything that I have imparted to you, you must not mention my name to others. My disciple, I hope that you can live a more relaxed and happier life than me." That deep and gentle voice, Qin Yu's consciousness was hypnotized. "Mother." Qin Yu could vaguely hear his mother's voice. That kind of tranquility made him feel very comfortable. He hoped that the voice would never stop it. However, the voice was gone in just a short moment. Once the voice disappeared, Qin Yu's consciousness was awakened. Qin of the world of Zhuqiumei's words was Zhuqiu's words, of the world of life of her, was of the world of the dead. Of the of that of life of life of life of life of life life. Of the life of the dead. Of the of life. S God of the of life of the dead. Of the dead. Qin Yu could still clearly remember the last words of Zhuqiumei. Qin Yu could not understand at all. Who would be willing to kill a person who possessed a voice that could cause one's soul to feel tranquil and peaceful? Is it the comprehension of the universe? Qin Yu could clearly sense that within his soul, there was something similar to the origin of the universe. That was what this woman called Zhuqiumei had left for him. Let my body naturally cultivate according to the 9 steps dark gold body, and the techniques of the gold punishment sect. Qinyu's consciousness sank into the dazzling rainbow light within his soul. Within Qinyu's mind, Lu Xing's tear was no longer emitting that rainbow light. The volume of Lu Xing's tear was now one size smaller than it had been in the past. Qinyu had experienced so many scenes earlier. It seemed like a very long time had passed. But in truth, it had only been a few days. At this moment, Lu Xing's tear that had shrunk one size smaller had once again fused with Qinyu's soul Jin Dan. As for Qinyu, his consciousness was immersed within the rainbow light within the depths of his soul. He was comprehending the comprehensions that Zuoqiumei had left for him. This was the most precious thing that Zuoqiumei had left for Qinyu through the use of Lu Xing's tear. Qinyu did not know how long it would take for him to comprehend all of this. Just like this, Qinyu's consciousness entered the deepest level of comprehension and training. Qinyu sat cross-legged on the dark star. The 27,000 marks were integrated into the depths of Qinyu's bones and muscles. They were unceasingly absorbing elemental spirit energy and tempering Qinyu's bones and muscles. As for the martial techniques of the Gold Punishment sect, they were also constantly circulating and absorbing an endless amount of gold attribute energy into Qinyu's body. Time passed. Qinyu was in the deepest level of cultivation. He did not know how much time had passed. Inside the Jianglan's realm, on top of a snowy peak, Hofei, Kuro and Wulan were together. Hofei was wearing a golden gown. His fiery eyes were flickering with a trace of helplessness. Beside Hofei was the white-clothed grave and stern Kuro. As for Wulan, he was sitting to the side and drinking wine. "Monkey, what's going on with Big Brother this time? I even sent him a mind-voice transmission, but he didn't respond at all." Kuro slightly frowned. Qinyu's cultivation this time around was truly too long. It was so long that Kuro and Hofei were both worried. Kuro and Qinyu, the two brothers that grew up together, possessed a special connection with each other. Kuro and Qinyu did not even need to use soul's power to send voice transmissions. They only needed to use their minds to communicate with each other. Wulan lightly smiled and said, "A mind-voice transmission is something that resounds within one's true spirit." "What's true spirit?" Hofei looked at Wulan in confusion. Wulan explained with a smile. "Oh, I forgot. This true spirit is what you guys call consciousness. There is a connection between consciousnesses. Normally, one would be able to receive it. Since he didn't even respond to your mind-voice transmission, it would seem that Qinyu has now entered a deep level of cultivation. Even his consciousness is completely immersed in it." Deep level of cultivation? Hofei and Kuro glanced at each other. No matter how deep it was, for it to be so deep that even a mind-voice transmission would not respond, this was a bit too astonishing. The most important thing is that Big Brother has already cultivated for 20,000 years. No, only 2,000 years have passed in the outside world. However, 2,000 years of cultivation isn't that too long? Hofei said somewhat anxiously. Wulan laughed and scolded. "Brat, what do you know? This kind of deep level of cultivation is something that can only be encountered and not sought. Ordinary cultivation is the cultivation of one's body and yuanying energy, not to mention mind-voice transmission. Even if it's demon awareness voice transmission, he would still be able to wake up. This kind of deep level of cultivation is not the cultivation of one's body, nor is it the cultivation of one's energy. Instead, it's the cultivation of one's realm. It's a kind of comprehension toward the cosmic space. This is the most fundamental and deepest level of cultivation. Even if I begged for it, I wouldn't be able to obtain it. It's best that the two of you don't disturb your big brother with mind-voice transmission. I hope that your big brother can cultivate like this for several tens of thousands of years." After hearing what Wulan said, Hofei and Kuro could only smile. "Big brother has such good luck. Of course we're happy. It's just that my and Monkey's souls have both reached level 9 Demon Emperor. Even our martial power has reached level 8 Demon Emperor. If it wasn't for the two of us suppressing it, we would have already reached level 9 Demon Emperor," Kuro said helplessly. After 20,000 years of cultivation, Hofei and Kuro's souls had both reached level 9 Demon Emperor. In terms of martial power, if it wasn't for them suppressing it, they would have reached level 9 Demon Emperor. Ho Fei smacked his lips and said, "Once we reach level 9 Demon Emperor, it's very likely that we'll encounter a divine tribulation. Although it's hard to say when the divine tribulation will arrive, it might be long or short. However, in order to not enter the divine realm too early, we can only suppress our martial power." Kuro also nodded his head. Wulan, who stood to the side, said helplessly, "You two brats' cultivation speed is so fast that I can't even reach level 9 Demon Emperor earlier. Yi Chu and Wuxi too. You've been training too hard these years." Ho Fei and Kuro were both embarrassed. The speed of their cultivation had greatly impacted Yi Chu and Ao Wuxiu. The cold and unfeeling Ao Wuxiu did not bother to say any superfluous words. Instead, he was frantically cultivating by himself. As for Yi Chu, he was also cultivating diligently. "Sai, let's wait slowly. I wonder when Big Brother will finish his cultivation," Ho Fei said helplessly. Kuro smiled. "These years, I haven't accompanied Ling or much. Now I'll accompany Ling, and educate little Tong and Guofan." Currently, Qin Yu's consciousness was completely immersed in it. He was unceasingly comprehending and absorbing. He was like an extremely hungry traveler as he frantically devoured and absorbed the comprehensions left behind by Zhuqiumei. Qin Yu's body was faintly emitting a golden light. Even the bones and tendons within his body were faintly emitting a dark golden light. This was clearly the sign that he had reached the 9th stage of the 9 steps dark gold body. Before Qin Yu's consciousness began to train at a deeper level, Qin Yu had already reached the 8th stage of the 9 steps dark gold body. In the following 2,000 years, even though he did not actively train, Qin Yu's body was still able to reach the 9th stage after a long period of time. After a very long time, Qin Yu, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. 2 substantial rays of light shot out from his eyes. It's already been 3,000 years, Qin Yu calculated in his heart. He was shocked to discover that he had actually trained for 3,000 years. Now that Qin Yu thought about it, the training at a deeper level of consciousness seemed to have happened in merely a blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, 3,000 years had already passed. Exactly who is this Zhuqiumei? The comprehensions she left behind towards the cosmic space are so astonishing. In these 3,000 years, I have only managed to comprehend 10 to 20% of it. However, merely 10 to 20% of it is already 10 to 100 times stronger than before. Qin Yu stood up. Dark star gravity? This sort of pure gravity, even if it were 10 times stronger, it would still be useless against me. The surface of Qin Yu's body suddenly emitted the power of gold. The power of gold floated around Qin Yu's body. It was as if a lump of golden light had enveloped Qin Yu. As for Qin Yu, he was actually floating. That's right, floating. Furthermore, he was floating on a dark star. A 15-star Emperor level dark star. Even a level 16 dark star Emperor level dark star expert would at most be able to jump around on it. Wanting to float on it was practically an impossible task. Only an 18-star Emperor level expert would be able to do so. However, the current Qin Yu's strength had yet to reach 18-star Emperor level. He had only just stepped into 17-star Emperor level. However, by relying on his comprehension towards the cosmic space, Qin Yu was able to easily change the space surrounding his body. He caused the gravity of the dark star to decrease by several tens of times. The laws are the most basic and most powerful strength. Qin Yu had already comprehended in his heart. However, Qin Yu also understood that when two people with similar comprehension towards the spatial laws were to fight against each other, in the end, it would still depend on the most primitive strength. However, the comprehension of the laws was extremely important. Ridiculous. Lu Xing's finger techniques. What 10,000 layered fingers? What 1,000 illusionary fingers? What 10 termination fingers? And that sky-piercing finger. Truly ridiculous. Qin Yu laughed at himself. Viewing the sky from the bottom of a well, one would not be able to see how the sky was. Only after leaving the well would one feel that the sky was boundless. Qin Yu was exactly like that. Back then, his comprehension towards the cosmic space was merely the comprehension of an emperor-level expert from the immortal, devil and demon realm. When he slightly sensed the cosmic space, he immediately felt that it was extraordinary. Furthermore, there was the term domain. He was truly viewing the sky from the bottom of a well. Qin Yu was certain that it was the Peng Demon Emperor that was fighting against him again. Merely by relying on his comprehension towards the spatial laws, Qin Yu was able to greatly decrease the speed of the Peng Demon Emperor. He was even able to turn the fastest person in the immortal, devil and demon realm into the slowest among the 3 emperors of the demon realm. Lu Xing's finger techniques are fine. I merely need to know the sky-piercing finger. Qin Yu extended his right index finger. A ray of gold force was shot out from Qin Yu's finger. That golden finger ray seemed to have pierced through the layers of space and directly shot into the ground of the dark star. Even with how tough the ground of the dark star was, the half-meter deep hole was actually pierced through it. Haha, Qin Yu laughed. When I was on the 14-star Emperor level dark star, I used the divine sword Sky Piercer and only managed to cut out a small piece of the dark star's substance with great difficulty. Yet now, a simple finger is 10 times more powerful than a divine artifact. Qin Yu did not use the black hole to accelerate his finger. Qin Yu had used his comprehension towards the spatial laws to shatter the surrounding space of the finger ray. Thus, wherever the finger ray passed through, even the dark star's substance was pierced half a meter deep. Merely, Qin Yu's comprehension was still not enough. If it were that Zhuo Qiumei, then Qin Yu reckoned that with a wave of her hand, the entire dark star would be turned into ashes. I'm still very weak. Qin Yu sighed in his heart. Weak? Was Qin Yu really weak? Merely by relying on his current body, that was comparable to a high-quality divine artifact, it was likely that not many people would be able to defeat him. However, Qin Yu's strongest aspect was still his comprehension towards the spatial laws. Although he had only comprehended 10 to 20% of what Zhuo Qiumei had left for him, in the entire immortal, devil and demon realm, perhaps only people like the Dragon Emperor, who possessed an inherited treasure, would be able to resist Qin Yu with their tortoise-like defense. I reckon that my current body is already 17-star Emperor level. It's not long before I reach 18-star Emperor level. There's no need to rush to train. Qin Yu prepared to leave the Dark Star. However, after taking 2 steps, Qin Yu opened his eyes wide. 3,000 years. Fei and them have already trained in the Jianglan's realm for 30,000 years. 30,000 years? Don't tell me that the 2 of them have already undergone the divine tribulation. After that, Qin Yu disappeared from the Dark Star and entered the Jianglan's realm. Chapter 450. Inside the Jianglan's realm, Kuro Bai Ling, his daughter He Tong, his son-in-law Guofan, and them were currently having a meal together. Other than their family, Guofan's master Wulan was also present. Of course, Ho Fei was also present. This large group of people were happily eating and drinking. As for Ho Fei, he was currently boasting with He Tong. Little Tong, let your second uncle tell you, there are not many people in the immortal realm, devil realm and demon realm that could match me. Who would dare to take my heaven-startling 3-stick strikes head-on? Ho Fei blinked his eyes complacently. Ho Fei's heaven-startling 3-stick strikes was indeed powerful, especially with the assistance of the black stick given to him by Uncle Lan. Its attack power was so strong that even Kuroa's defensive scale feathers did not dare to take it head-on. From this, one could tell how powerful it was. You have the heaven-startling 3-stick strikes, but my father also has it. He Tong said. Your father? Your father learned it from me. Ho Fei raised his head and said. Kuro merely smiled. At this moment, he did not dare to say anything. Indeed, 80% of his spear technique was learned from Ho Fei's stick technique. The other 20% was created by himself. He Tong laughed and said, Second uncle is truly powerful. However, can you teach my big brother Guofan that heaven-startling 3-stick strikes of yours? Little Tong. Bai Ling reprimanded her in a bad mood. Whenever He Tong saw someone strong, she would have that person teach her husband his best move. Guofan laughed and said, Little Tong, it's my lack of comprehension. Furthermore, I feel that it is enough for me to learn the fist technique that my master taught me. It's enough to specialize in it. Little Tong, you must learn more from Guofan. Wulan lectured. At the beginning, Wulan had only given Guofan some guidance. However, as time passed, he discovered that Guofan, who appeared simple and honest on the surface, was actually extremely meticulous and possessed extremely high comprehension. The speed at which he learned his fist technique was also extremely fast. Where's eldest Uncle Yi Chu? Could it be that he's not coming today? He Tong said with a frown. Wulan smiled and said, Oh Yi Chu, your father and your second uncle are currently able to step into the level 9 Demon Emperor realm at any time. They are only controlling their power for the sake of waiting for your eldest uncle. As for your eldest uncle Yetsu, he is still a level 8 Demon Emperor. Naturally, he would have to work hard. Haha, even if you work hard, you don't have to work so hard for such a short period of time. A deep voice rang out. Yi Chu, whose body was like a mountain, strode over and sat down. Little Tong is still the best. She still misses me even now. He Tong obediently nodded her head. Soon after, she looked to the surroundings. It's one thing for Master to be in closed-door training and not come. However, didn't Uncle Wushu just reach level 9 Demon Emperor a few years ago? Why aren't they here? He's not used to crowds, Yichu explained. Oh, Uncle Wushu doesn't like bustling places. He Tong nodded. Suddenly, He Tong looked to the distance in a pleasant surprise. Uncle Wushu has come. How is that possible? Do you think that I don't know Voidless temperament? Yi Chu said confidently. Kuro, Ho Fei, and the others also looked into the distance. Brother, you're finally back. Only then did Yi Chu look over in shock. Qinyu? Wasn't that the case? The person who came was precisely Qinyu. Qinyu walked over and said, I'm sorry. I've trained for 3,000 years this time around. I've made everyone wait for a long time. Soon after, Qinyu looked to Ho Fei and Kuro. Fei, Xiaohei, your souls have both reached level 9 Demon Emperor. Not bad. Even your martial power has reached the limit of level 8 Demon Emperor. Fortunately, you've yet to undergo the divine tribulation and ascend. Ho Fei stood up, curled his lips and said, What's there to be happy about? Mixed Hair Bird and I have already reached our current level long ago. If it wasn't for the fact that we've been suppressing our martial power, we would have already reached level 9 Demon Emperor. Likely, we would have already reached the divine realm. Monkey. Kuro frowned. Ho Fei's words caused Kuro to feel disgusted. The reason why we were able to cultivate so quickly was because Big Brother allowed us to cultivate in the Jianglan's realm. If we were outside, I reckon that we would still not have reached our current level. Ho Fei hurriedly smiled apologetically. Mixed Hair Bird, I was merely joking. Enough, stop messing around. Qinyu stopped the two of them with a smile. It's been some time since your souls reached level 9 Demon Emperor. It seems that your speed of improvement is quite fast. I wonder how your actual strength is. Ho Fei said confidently. Strength? I have now completely comprehended the heaven-startling 3-stick strikes. My current strength is definitely not inferior to the Great Ape Emperor. What do you think my strength is? Big Brother, you're feeling inferior now, right? Qinyu smiled. He then looked to Kuro. Now Blackfeather felt more confident. The Blackfeather battle armor, formed from my feathers, should have defensive power, close to that of a high-grade divine artifact armor. Given my agility and speed, combined with the Cloud-Piercer Spear, I should be able to withstand it. With my speed and the Cloud-Piercing Spear, Big Brother, I believe that there are not many people in the immortal, devil and demon realm that can defeat me. Although Kuro did not say it explicitly, his meaning was very clear. He was also confident in defeating Qinyu. Each and every one of you is very confident, Qinyu said with a chuckle. He Tong clapped her hands and encouraged Qinyu. At the same time, she consoled him. Eldest uncle, it's fine even if you lose. After all, there are two of them. Qinyu could only smile. Soon after, Qinyu's body moved and arrived in midair. As for Ho Fei and Kuro, they also teleported into midair. Let's do it, Qinyu said. Stop. Hofei suddenly shouted. What's wrong? Qin Yu looked to Hofei. As for Hofei, he said, Big brother, this is the Jianglan's realm, your territory. You are completely capable of controlling everything in the Jianglan's realm. Thus, I request that you do not control the Jianglan's realm to deal with us. You can only use your own abilities. Kuro also looked to Qin Yu. They had also realized what was going on. Okay, I guarantee that I will not control the Jianglan's realm. Qin Yu replied. However, he was feeling helpless in his heart. Not control the Jianglan's realm? Even if he truly did not control the Jianglan's realm, once he used his comprehension of the spatial laws to distort space and so on, it was likely that his two brothers would also think that he was using the Jianglan's realm. Big brother, eat my stick. Hofei roared. A black stick silhouette merely flashed twice before it pierced through space and arrived before Qin Yu. Faced with this attack, Qin Yu merely slightly swayed his body and easily dodged it. Impossible. Hofei's expression changed. He was very confident in his stick techniques. It was one thing for Qin Yu to use his body to block it. However, Qin Yu actually easily dodged it. The black spearhead instantly arrived before Qin Yu's eyes. This spear's usage of the spatial laws is pretty good. However, it seems that Xiaohei only knows how to use it, but not why. Qin Yu's body once again moved and dodged the spear. Qin Yu was able to use his comprehension of the spatial laws on any of his moves. Movement techniques, spear techniques, finger techniques, leg techniques, fist techniques. One technique was equivalent to 10,000 techniques. Hofei and Kuro had only comprehended the spear techniques. They knew that the spear techniques would be very powerful. However, they did not know why the spear techniques were so powerful. Impossible. Hofei's eyes were filled with shock. Kuro also stared at Qin Yu in shock. Soon after, Hofei and Kuro glanced at each other and slightly nodded. The black stick and the cloud-piercing spear attacked Qin Yu at almost the same time. The stick silhouettes and spear silhouettes were unceasingly attacking Qin Yu. As for Qin Yu, it was as if he was playing a game as he easily dodged them. Wu Lan, Hei Tong and them who were below were all shocked. Impossible. Big brother, you're controlling the Jianglan's realm to change your body's position, right? Hofei stood in the air while holding the black stick. He looked to Qin Yu and said, Big brother, what you're doing is wrong. Kuro also held his spear and looked to Qin Yu. I said that if I don't rely on the Jianglan's realm, I would definitely not use it. Qin Yu sighed in his heart. Sure enough, it was as he had anticipated. This was what Hofei and Kuro had guessed. But your dodging is too abnormal. Hofei found it hard to accept. Qin Yu smiled and said, It's not that my dodging is abnormal. That's because your stick technique could only be considered as ordinary. Heaven's startling 72 stick strikes. Heaven's startling 36 stick strikes. Heaven's startling 18 stick strikes. Heaven's startling 9 stick strikes. Heaven's startling 3 stick strikes and Heaven's startling single stick strike. I have also seen it in the inherited prohibited area. I have seen it clearly. Qin Yu extended his hand. An ordinary iron stick appeared in his hand. The spatial laws contained within the Heaven's startling single stick strike were extremely rare. Compared to Qin Yu's current comprehension, it was much less. In the past, Qin Yu did not understand it. However, now that he had comprehended a portion of the spatial laws and recalled that stick technique, he immediately understood it. Big brother, what are you planning to do? Hofei saw that Qin Yu was holding the stick and had a guess in his heart. Merely, even he himself felt that guess to be too crazy. Qin Yu held the long stick with one hand. Immediately after, the long stick in his hand trembled. This is the Heaven's startling 72 stick strikes. Qin Yu's figure was extremely fast. Stick silhouettes that filled the sky were continuously displayed. The Heaven's startling 72 stick strikes were displayed in a natural and unrestrained manner. When Qin Yu displayed this stick technique, he did not possess the imposing manner that Hofei possessed. However, Hofei knew that Qin Yu's stick technique had reached the level of returning to one's natural state. This is the Heaven's startling 36 stick strikes. Every single one of Qin Yu's moves were clearly executed. That final chain of 36 overlapping waves even burst forth with an astonishing energy. Ho Fei muttered in a low voice. Too crazy. Don't continue. I don't even dare to continue watching. This is the heaven-startling 3-stick strikes. Qin Yu had already displayed the 5th set of the heaven-startling 3-stick strikes. Qin Yu had only used the power of gold to protect the iron stick. After all, an ordinary iron stick would not be able to withstand this kind of stick technique. 3 explosive sounds could be heard and cracks appeared in the entire space. Monkey, the heaven-startling 3-stick strikes executed by Big Brother, is even easier than yours. Furthermore, it is much more powerful. Kuro looked at Ho Fei. However, Ho Fei stared at Qin Yu. Don't tell me that you even know the heaven-startling single-stick strike. After displaying the heaven-startling 3-stick strikes, Qin Yu glanced at Ho Fei and Kuro. Then he smiled and said, "This is the heaven-startling single-stick strike." Qin Yu held the long stick in his right hand and directly thrust it forward. When Qin Yu thrust out the long stick, everyone who was watching felt that Qin Yu's figure had become blurry. Even the long stick had become blurry. 7 or 8 afterimages had appeared. When the blurry afterimages overlapped, Qin Yu's long stick had also stopped. Pung! The space where the long stick struck began to tremble. The tremors continued to travel far away until they reached a distant mountain. That mountain only trembled slightly before turning into dust. Wherever the long stick pointed, everything turned into dust. Did you see it clearly? The iron stick in Qin Yu's hand had turned into nothingness as he smiled at his 2 brothers. Ho Fei and Kuro looked at each other and saw the disbelief in each other's eyes. What a monstrous Big Brother! Ho Fei felt bitter in his heart. He looked up at Qin Yu and said helplessly, "Big Brother, I cultivated here for 30,000 years and only learned the heaven-startling 3-stick strikes. You didn't cultivate much and only spent 3,000 years outside. You even know the heaven-startling single-stick strike." Kuro looked at Qin Yu's figure and thought to himself, "Big Brother is still so strong. It seems that I need to work even harder." Actually, your stick skills have already entered the Tao. It's just that 1 Tao is equivalent to 10,000 Taos. As long as you have enough understanding of the universe space, you can learn stick skills, spear skills, and fist skills. The movement skill I used just now relied on my understanding of space. When I have enough understanding of space, I can even shatter the space in a certain area. As for the people in that area, they will naturally be crushed. This is the power of the Tao, Qin Yu explained. Chapter 451. The tall mountain in the distance had already disappeared. What remained was only a large amount of crushed mountain rocks. The ground was completely crushed. When the breeze blew over, those crushed rocks started to float with the wind. Seeing the scene before them, Ho Fei and Kuro glanced at each other and started to laugh. "Big Brother, don't talk about the great Tao. Our souls are only at the level of level 9 demon emperors. How much do you expect us to be able to comprehend?" Ho Fei said helplessly. Qin Yu lightly nodded his head. He knew that he had actually also relied on Lu Xing's tears, that is, the assistance of that Zhuqiumei, to be able to obtain his current accomplishments in a short 3,000 years. It was already very good for Fei and Xiaohei to be able to comprehend some spear techniques and stick techniques. "Come, let's go down." Qin Yu's body moved, and he arrived below. Beside the short and sturdy tree, everyone was gathered around a large table. They were eating, drinking, laughing, and chatting. Qin Yu also began to talk to them about some of the things that happened in his cultivation in the past few years. Of course, Qin Yu did not mention the name Zhuqiumei. That was because Qin Yu remembered very clearly that Zhuqiumei had said that if he did not completely comprehend the things that she had left behind, he could not mention the name Zhuqiumei. "Qin Yu, how far have you comprehended the spatial laws? What level is your soul at now?" Wu Lan suddenly asked. Qin Yu couldn't help but look to Wu Lan. For Wu Lan to ask such a question, it was evident that he knew a lot of things. Qin Yu couldn't help but ask, "Wu Lan, do you know what the levels of the soul are?" Soul. When one's soul reaches perfection, it will condense into a Jin Dan, the soul Jin Dan. This is the level of ordinary deities. And above this level is the soul nascent soul. When your soul turns into the appearance of an infant, it will be very powerful. However, Chinyu, from what you've displayed earlier, it is very clear that your soul's level should be extremely high. You should have reached the Soul Jin Dan realm, right? Wu Lan asked. Chinyu nodded his head. Soul Jin Dan? Before comprehending some spatial laws, Chinyu had already reached the realm of Jin Dan. Chinyu even believed that his current Jin Dan was more than 10 times stronger than his 3,000-year-old Jin Dan. The law of space is supreme. The path to comprehending the law of space is very long. Actually, just by looking at the realm of your soul, you can tell how much you've comprehended the law of space. When your soul surpasses the nascent soul stage, you'll probably have completely comprehended the law of space. However, I have never seen a person who has completely comprehended the spatial laws in all my years in the divine realm. That kind of person with a single thought could kill millions upon millions of me, said Wu Lan with a sigh. Ho Fei and He Yu couldn't help but be shocked. They knew very well of Wu Lan's strength. He was an existence that had completely comprehended the laws of space. With a single thought, he could kill millions upon millions of Wu Lans. This kind of strength was a little too terrifying. At that level, with a single thought, the heavens and earth would collapse. Chinyu nodded. Chinyu knew very well the strength of someone who had completely comprehended the law of space. Because Chinyu had only comprehended 10 to 20% of the comprehensions that Zhuo Qiumei had passed on to him. Furthermore, Lu Xing's tear was only a small part of it. It was likely that what Lu Xing's tear had passed on to Chinyu was only a portion of the laws contained in Lu Xing's tear. Wu Lan had already said it earlier. When one's comprehension of the law of space reaches a certain level, one's soul would be able to go from the Soul Jin Dan stage to the Soul Nascent Soul stage. The Soul Nascent Soul stage was still the path of comprehending the law of space. Only by surpassing the Soul Nascent Soul stage could one be considered to have completely comprehended the law of space. The length of this path of cultivation was very obvious. Soul Jin Dan Soul Nascent Soul, how long would that take? Chinyu thought in his heart. Right now, he did not feel that his Soul Jin Dan was showing any signs of Soul Nascent Soul. Evidently, it was still very far away from the Soul Nascent Soul stage. Seeing Chinyu acting like this, Wu Lan couldn't help but smile and say, Chinyu, don't think too much about it. With your current strength, merely your comprehension of the law of space, you could be said to be unrivaled in the immortal devil and demon realm. Unrivaled? Chinyu smiled. That's hard to say. I do not really care about the Peng Demon Emperor and the Great Ape Emperor. However, I do not have enough certainty in being able to break through the defense of the Dragon Emperor. Although the Peng Demon Emperor's speed was very fast, Chinyu was able to greatly reduce the Peng Demon Emperor's speed through his control of the space. The Peng Demon Emperor, who did not possess absolute speed, had no hope against Chinyu's attack. As for the Great Ape Emperor, the reason why the Great Ape Emperor was strong was because of the Heavenly Staff. However, Chinyu's comprehension of the Heavenly Staff technique was even stronger than his. How could the Great Ape Emperor possibly fight against Chinyu? Only the Dragon Emperor, who possessed an extremely abnormal defense. As for whether Chinyu's strongest attack would be able to break through the defense of the Dragon Emperor, this was still hard to say. Not only the Dragon Emperor, I also do not have certainty in being able to break through the three great sovereigns of the Dark Star realm. Chinyu's gaze was deep and profound. He slowly said, the three great sovereigns of the Dark Star realm all possess inherited treasures. When they are not using their inherited treasures, their bodies are already extremely valiant. Once they use their inherited treasures, I reckon, they might be even stronger than the Dragon Emperor. The group of people on the dining table all started to quietly ponder. Are they that strong? He Tong muttered to herself. Wu Lan, Ho Fei, Kuro, Yi Chu and them were instead pondering. They were pondering over what Chinyu had said earlier. Seeing everyone acting like this, Chinyu was unable to refrain himself from laughing. Haha, I merely said that they were extremely exceptional. However, whether or not their defense would be able to withstand my attack is another matter altogether. Qingyu looked to Hou Fei. Fei, you ought to know about the might of your ape clan's heaven-startling single stick strike, right? Hou Fei said confidently. Heaven-startling single stick strike. If I am able to use it, then even a high-quality divine artifact would be shattered. Qingyu smiled and said, as for my comprehension of the spatial laws, it is much stronger than the laws contained within the heaven-startling single stick strike. If I were to attack, I would use my strongest attack. The possibility that the Dragon Emperor and them would be able to withstand it is also not high. Haha, there is still quite a gap between Big Brother and me. I'm not going to fight Big Brother anymore. It's fine as long as I can trample on that mixed-hair bird. Hou Fei said while laughing. Who's trampling who now? Kuro asked. Hou Fei was immediately speechless. Haha, the people on the table all started to laugh. After the meal, Qingyu, Hou Fei and Kuro were strolling on the mountain path. Big Brother, how's the progress of your stellar transformations martial technique? Kuro asked. Hou Fei also looked to Qingyu. Qingyu was startled. Stellar transformations martial technique? After the 3,000 years of training, Qingyu had hurriedly rushed to the Jianglan's realm. He had yet to enter the stellar space to properly see what level his stellar transformations martial technique had reached. Qingyu stopped his footsteps. His awareness directly entered the stellar space. Inside the stellar space was still as spacious and empty as before. However, its volume was much larger than the last time Qingyu had entered it. Countless amounts of flower paste energy passed through the membrane between the stellar space and the outside flower paste space. It unceasingly seeped in and fused with that dark golden sphere in the center. It's become like this. The last time I saw it, it was still golden. Qingyu immediately controlled that dark golden sphere to shoot out a burst of energy. Qingyu carefully sensed the purity of that energy. Its power is much stronger than before. It's even stronger than the current 9 steps force and gold force. Qingyu was unable to refrain his joy. After reaching the 9th stage of the 9 steps dark gold body, the 9 steps force and gold force were both comparable to the energy of ordinary level 8 immortal emperors. However, Qinyu's current origin energy was actually even stronger than theirs. Qingyu suddenly remembered something. Perhaps I might be able to open the second layer of the Jianglan's realm now. The Jianglan's realm had 3 layers. Qingyu had only opened the first layer. According to what Uncle Lan had said, only by completely opening all 3 layers would he, Qingyu, be qualified to meet Li Heir. Big Brother, what's wrong? Kuro looked to Qingyu in confusion. Let me try and see if I can open the second layer of the Jianglan's realm. With an intention from Qingyu, the dark golden origin energy directly assimilated into the body of the Jianglan's realm. Qinyu's origin energy was unceasingly assimilating into the Jianglan's realm. Hou Fei and Kuro were both quietly watching. Time passed by. There's hope. Qingyu felt that his consciousness had already vaguely touched the entrance to the second layer of the Jianglan's realm. Immediately, Qingyu instilled even more origin energy into the second layer of the Jianglan's realm. Boom! Qingyu was suddenly enlightened. He immediately sensed that there were 2 spaces in the Jianglan's realm. One was the first layer of the Jianglan's realm. The other was the second layer of the Jianglan's realm. Uncle Lan. Qingyu was overjoyed. He disappeared. Where's Big Brother? Hou Fei and Heiyu stared blankly as Qingyu suddenly disappeared. They were unable to refrain themselves from being surprised. The Jianglan's realm contained 3 great spaces. Earlier, Qingyu had directly arrived at the second space from the first space of the Jianglan's realm. Inside the second space of the Jianglan's realm, this space was completely desolate. Qingyu appeared here out of thin air. There was a figure in front of Qingyu. That steady and deep gaze, that aura that caused others to feel tranquil. The identity of this person was obvious. Uncle Lan. Qinyu's face was filled with pleasant surprise. Uncle Lan was still as calm as before. He lightly smiled to Qingyu and said, Little you, congratulations on opening the second layer space. Your cultivation speed is indeed very fast. Uncle Lan, is this your image or your consciousness? Qingyu asked. To be able to converse with you, what do you think? Uncle Lon had a slight smile on his face. Little Yu, I want to ask you about a matter. Uncle Lon, please speak. Qin Yu calmly waited. Uncle Lon opened his mouth. Soon after, he shook his head and heaved a long sigh. He was actually unable to say anything. Qin Yu couldn't help but be shocked. Uncle Lon, who in his heart would not lose his composure even if the sky were to collapse, would actually have a time when he was unable to speak. Your soul has condensed into Jin Dan, right? Uncle Lon finally asked. That's right. Qin Yu nodded. With his eyes wide open, he looked at Uncle Lon. Uncle Lon, is this what you want to ask? Qin Yu did not think that this question was difficult to ask. Uncle Lon laughed at himself. There seemed to be a trace of sparkling and translucent tears flashing through his eyes. However, when Qin Yu looked carefully, he discovered that there were no tears in Uncle Lan's eyes. He did not know whether or not his eyes were playing tricks on him. Your soul has condensed into Jin Dan. You must have received part of her teachings. Uncle Lon sighed and did not say anything else. Her. Qin Yu was shocked. Could it be that Uncle Lon knew of that Zhuqiumei? After a while, Uncle Lon regained his usual calmness. He smiled at Qin Yu and said, Let's not talk about that. Qin Yu, work hard. If you continue to work hard, there will be a day when you can be together with Li Er. No one will be able to stop you. I promise. Uncle Lon patted Qin Yu's shoulder and looked at Qin Yu with a resolute gaze. Qin Yu could feel the strength of Uncle Lan's hand on his shoulder. Uncle Lan's promise? Qin Yu couldn't help but be startled. However, the most important thing is that you must work hard yourself. Merely me helping you too is not enough. Li Er is also working hard. In the past, she did not like to train. Now, she is also working hard to train. Merely with her strength, she is still unable to leave the divine realm freely. Uncle Lon slightly revealed some information about Li Er. Qin Yu was unable to refrain his excitement. He immediately knew that Li Er was also working hard. I will work hard. Qin Yu clenched his fist tightly. Uncle Lon nodded his head in gratification. Soon after, his body turned into nothingness. Only his voice remained. Qin Yu, work hard. When you open the third layer space of the Jianglan's realm, I will think of a way for you to meet Li Er. Qin Yu nodded. At this moment, he felt that his entire body was filled with enthusiasm. Uncle Lon, thank you. After calming down, Qin Yu said in his heart. Qin Yu knew that he was originally a nobody from the mortal realm. In order to allow him to be together with Li Er, Uncle Lon must have spent a large amount of effort. After all, Qin Yu was able to imagine some of it. Next, I will go to the 14-star Emperor level Dark Star and retrieve that green-colored cold pond. Then, I will proceed to the Bewitching God Temple. Qin Yu thought in his heart. As long as it was something that could help him in the future in the divine realm, Qin Yu would do it. Chapter 452. After some discussion, in the end, only Wu Lan and Yi Chu decided to enter the second layer space of the Jianglan's realm. As for Ao Wuxiu, he had already reached level 9 Demon Emperor and did not enter the second layer space of the Jianglan's realm. After sending the two of them into the second layer space of the Jianglan's realm, Qin Yu left the Jianglan's realm. On the 15-star Emperor level Dark Star, Qin Yu appeared on the Dark Star. After that, Qin Yu rapidly rushed toward the interstellar conveying array. Qin Yu was currently able to reduce the gravitational force of the Dark Star by 10 times. Thus, his speed was naturally extremely fast. Amen? That woman from the White Profound sect. Qin Yu's speed suddenly slowed down. That was because Qin Yu discovered that there was a white-clothed woman not far from him. When Qin Yu first entered the 15-star Emperor level Dark Star, he had discovered this woman. Unexpectedly, after 3,000 years, this white-clothed woman was still here. The white-clothed woman was only several hundred meters away from the interstellar conveying array. If Qin Yu were to go to the interstellar conveying array, he would definitely be seen by the white-clothed woman. Without much hesitation, Qin Yu continued onward. The ground of the Dark Star was extremely hot. The surface of the Dark Star was dark red in color. Even the space close to the surface of the Dark Star seemed to be steaming with mist. However, In the surroundings of the white-clothed woman, the ground had instead turned dark black. When Qin Yu approached the woman, he also sensed that the temperature around the woman had started to drop. Suddenly, the white-clothed woman turned around. Her clear and cold gaze landed on Qin Yu. Her brows slightly creased. Gold Punishment Sect? I am Han Shui from the White Profound Sect. Han Shui. Qin Yu nodded. I am Lu Xing. The Gold Punishment Sect is truly worthy of being the head of the three sects. Not only that new sovereign, new vice sect master and even you Lu Xing are all hidden. There are truly a lot of hidden experts. Han Shui nodded. She then continued to train, and no longer looked at Qin Yu. What a cold woman. Qin Yu sighed in his heart. Then, he directly ran toward the interstellar conveying array. After entering the interstellar conveying array, the gold energy within his body directly poured into the interstellar conveying array. Following the misty light that enveloped the entire interstellar conveying array, Qin Yu disappeared from the interstellar conveying array. Have you succeeded? It's only been 3,000 years. The woman named Han Shui looked at the interstellar teleportation array and couldn't help but mutter in a low voice. On the trial planet, a large number of cultivators had gathered. Here, there were the high-ranking members of the White Profound Sect, the Gold Punishment Sect, and the Black Flame Sect. There were also powerful solitary cultivators. There were also silent cultivators who cultivated in seclusion. There were also nobodies who worked hard. 15-star Emperor level. This was a dividing ridge. Once one reached the strength of a 15-star Emperor level expert, one would possess the qualifications to compete for the position of Overlord. He had automatically become a candidate for the position of Monarch. Needless to say, his status was extremely noble. A 15-star Emperor level enormous building was erected on the Trial Sacred Planet. Countless cultivators in the entire Dark Star realm were looking forward to the day when they would be qualified to step into the 15-star Emperor level teleportation formation. However, in the entire Dark Star realm, not many people possessed the qualifications to do so. Thus, many people were willing to spend a large amount of money to dine in a 15-star Emperor level building's restaurant. The majority of them only wanted to experience the atmosphere of a 15-star Emperor level building. On the wide street, when many people passed by the 15-star Emperor level building, they would all involuntarily look toward the main entrance of the building. When one's gaze passed through the main entrance, one would be able to clearly see the teleportation formation that led to the 15-star Emperor level Dark Star. Ah, the teleportation formation lit up. Look, that teleportation formation lit up. On the street, a youngster excitedly pointed toward the main entrance of the 15-star Emperor level building. Immediately, a large number of cultivators on the street began to gather toward the entrance. As for the large number of cultivators dining in the 15-star Emperor level building, they too began to look toward the entrance. To be able to come out from the teleportation formation, one must have come from the 15-star Emperor level Dark Star. That was a 15-star Emperor level expert. Before the crowd, Qin Yu's figure appeared in the teleportation formation. Right after Qin Yu came out, he immediately saw this scene. Regarding this, Qin Yu merely smiled lightly. He did not care about it in the slightest. Back then, when he came out from the 14-star Emperor level teleportation formation, he was also surrounded by people. He was able to understand the admiration the cultivators of the Dark Star realm had toward experts. Lord Lu Xing, the elder that was guarding the teleportation formation, said respectfully, Lord Lu Xing has stayed in the Dark Star for 3,000 years. Thus, you are qualified to be awarded the 15-star Emperor level title plate. Please wait a moment. Qin Yu nodded. That elder also took out a triangular prism-shaped crystal pillar. The light emitted from the pillar illuminated Qin Yu's entire body. Then he said apologetically, Lord Lu Xing, please return the 14-star Emperor level title plate. Qin Yu knew the rules. When one was awarded a higher level title plate, one must return the previous title plate. After removing the blood contract, Qin Yu took out the 14-star Emperor level title plate. After that elder received it, He respectfully handed the 15-star Emperor level title plate to Qin Yu. Lord Lu Xing, you can drip your blood on it to make it recognize you as its master. Compared to the 14-star Emperor level title plate, this title plate was made of exactly the same material. It was still somewhat transparent and emitted 3 different colors. The front of this title plate still had the word Emperor on it. Only on the back, 14 had turned into 15. After Qin Yu dripped his blood on the title plate, he placed it into his body and planned to leave. However, that elder stopped Qin Yu and said apologetically, Lord Lu Xing, I have a message that His Majesty the Gold Punishment Lord left for Lord Lu Xing. Gold Punishment Lord? Qin Yu was unable to refrain his confusion. He did not know this Gold Punishment Lord at all. Yet he left him a message. Lord Lu Xing. The elder bowed and handed a jade slip to Qin Yu. After Qin Yu received the jade slip, he swept it with his soul power and discovered the message left behind by the Gold Punishment Lord. Lu Xing, as a cultivator of our Gold Punishment sect, since you've already reached the 15-star Emperor level, I shall inform you that you have become a candidate for the next Gold Punishment Lord. You are qualified to compete for the next Gold Punishment Lord. This was one of the 2 pieces of information that the Gold Punishment Lord told Qin Yu. Merely this one piece of information shocked Qin Yu. A 15-star Emperor level expert actually automatically became a candidate for the next Gold Punishment Lord? Who was the one who decided this? Other than this one piece of information, the other piece of information was, at the same time, your strength has obtained the acknowledgement of the entire Gold Punishment sect. Thus, the sect has invited you to become the consecrated of the Gold Punishment sect. Of course you can refuse. Lu Xing, I am not far from the divine tribulation. I hope that you will work hard in your cultivation, so that you can obtain the position of the next Gold Punishment Lord. With a flip of his hand, Qin Yu put away the jade slip. Qin Yu knew about the strength of the current Gold Punishment Lord, Xing Yuan. He was an 18-star Emperor level expert. His divine tribulation could come at any time. However, Qin Yu did not expect that after 3,000 years, he still had yet to undergo his divine tribulation. The speed of this divine tribulation is truly strange. That hidden Emperor Lin Yin had already reached level 9 Immortal Emperor level. After all these years, even Cyan Emperor had already undergone his divine tribulation. Yet he had yet to do so. Qin Yu sighed. I wonder when this new Gold Punishment Lord will undergo his divine tribulation. Qin Yu didn't know about that. Although Cyan Emperor had declared his strength as a level 8 Immortal Emperor, his soul realm had already reached perfection and condensed into the Soul Gene Dan. When Cyan Emperor succeeded in his cultivation and no longer suppressed his strength, it was very normal for his strength to cause the divine tribulation to arrive so quickly. As for ordinary level 9 Immortal Emperors, they would need to wait for their divine tribulation to arrive in the tens of thousands of years. Consecrated, Qin Yu smiled and directly walked out of the main entrance. The large amount of cultivators that were watching from the outside all consciously and respectfully opened up a path for Qin Yu. As for Qin Yu's heartbeat, it caused a large amount of people to be confused. That was because Qin Yu entered the 14-star Emperor level building and stepped into the teleportation array of the 14-star Emperor level building. He's already a 15-star Emperor level expert. Why did he enter the 14-star Emperor level Dark Star? This was something that countless people were puzzled about. However, no one was able to figure it out. While the group of people were puzzled, Qin Yu ordered that elder to activate the teleportation array. On the 14-star Emperor level Dark Star, Qin Yu's figure appeared in the teleportation array. Let's speed up. Qin Yu's body emitted gold force. The gold force floated about. As for the space surrounding Qin Yu, it seemed as if it was distorted. The gravitational force of the Dark Star was weakened by Qin Yu by over 10 times. Soon after, Qin Yu exploded forth with astonishing power. His body was unceasingly leaping and landing forward. His entire body was like a sharp arrow. The distance of 300 miles was traversed by Qin Yu in merely 10 breaths of time. This place is still the most refreshing. Feeling the surrounding coldness, Qin Yu's face was filled with smiles. The other places on the dark star are truly too hot. Now that I have reached the 9th level of the 9 transformations dark gold body, I should be able to approach it. Qin Yu walked towards the jade green-colored frost pond. He was still 300 meters away from the frost pond. The current Qin Yu's muscles and bones were comparable to high-quality divine artifacts. Thus, the temperature did not affect him much. Qin Yu continued to advance. When Qin Yu was 10 meters away from the frost pond, he felt that his body was numb from the cold. Seems like this unitary heavy water frost pond is going to be mine. Qin Yu was filled with confidence. Although his body was numb from the cold, it was not to the point where his life elemental energy could heal him. Qin Yu continued to advance. When he was 5 meters away from the frost pond, his surroundings were filled with fog. That was the frost soul frost chi. Qin Yu felt that his body was unable to withstand it. 5 meters. I should be able to absorb this frost pond. Qin Yu tried to absorb the unitary heavy water frost pond into the Jianglan's realm. However, no matter how much Qin Yu tried to control it, the frost pond did not move at all. Generally, when Qin Yu tried to absorb people, he would be several tens of meters away from them. As long as the person did not refuse, Qin Yu would be able to easily absorb them. However, this frost pond was only 5 meters away from him. Qin Yu was actually unable to absorb it. Qin Yu understood that the harder it was to absorb it, the more extraordinary the item contained within the frost pond was. Step forward 1 step 2 steps. At this moment, Qin Yu was only 3 meters away from the frost pond. Qin Yu's muscles were so cold that they started to slowly tear apart. His life elemental energy was rapidly healing him. Qin Yu once again tried to absorb the unitary heavy water frost pond through the Jianglan's realm. The jade green-colored unitary heavy water started to sway. Qin Yu was unable to refrain his joy. Absorb. Qin Yu activated the Jianglan's realm's spatial energy. The jade green-colored liquid within the frost pond suddenly disappeared. Qin Yu also sensed that a jade green-colored liquid had appeared in the Jianglan's realm. It was the unitary heavy water. Success! A joyous expression appeared on Qin Yu's face. However, Qin Yu felt that the surrounding temperature did not seem to have changed. At this moment, Qin Yu also saw the item at the bottom of the frost pond. At the bottom of the frost pond, there was a small puddle of golden liquid. Within the small puddle of golden liquid was a round pearl emitting a golden light. Qin Yu frowned. After absorbing the unitary heavy water, the temperature here did not change at all. It would appear that the cause of the surrounding temperature was this golden liquid and that golden pearl. Earlier, when I absorbed the entire frost pond, I only absorbed the unitary heavy water. However, I did not manage to absorb this golden liquid and that golden pearl. It would appear that they are even harder to absorb. Qin Yu clenched his teeth. This thing is definitely more precious than the unitary heavy water. Even the unitary heavy water is so hard to absorb. Let's risk it. Whoosh. Qin Yu's entire body suddenly rushes forward. A distance of 3 meters was traversed by Qin Yu in the blink of an eye. However, Qin Yu's body was also rapidly freezing and cracking at a visible speed. Even Qin Yu's bones were instantly frozen and broken. Absorb. When he was only half a meter away from the frost pond, Qin Yu controlled the Jianglan's realm's spatial energy. With extreme difficulty, the final small puddle of golden liquid and that golden pearl were finally unwillingly absorbed into the Jianglan's realm. As for Qin Yu, he fell to the side. So close. Qin Yu sucked in a mouthful of cold air. In an instant earlier, 90% of Qin Yu's muscles were frozen and necrotic. Even over 70% of his bones were broken. From this, one could imagine the might of this golden pearl and golden liquid. This was merely approaching them. If they were to come into contact with each other, then the result would be obvious. The green-colored life elemental energy instantly assimilated into the broken bones and necrotic muscles. Qin Yu's body had completely recovered to its perfect state. After losing the frost pond, the temperature of the ground at this location was rapidly increasing. As for Qin Yu, he directly disappeared from the dark star and entered the Jianglan's realm. In the first layer space of the Jianglan's realm, Qin Yu had already designated a small area to store the unitary heavy water, the small puddle of golden liquid, and the golden pearl. Relying on his control over the Jianglan's realm, Qin Yu was only able to see the outer appearance of the golden pearl. After returning to the Jianglan's realm, Qin Yu's soul's energy was prepared to envelop the golden pearl and carefully inspect it. Qin Yu's soul's energy passed through the golden liquid and touched the golden pearl. However, at the moment when Qin Yu's soul's energy touched the golden pearl, hiss! A burst of coldness instantly froze Qin Yu's soul's energy. Then, following his soul's energy, the coldness immediately rushed into Qin Yu's soul Jindan. That coldness completely covered Qin Yu's soul freezing. In an instant, Qin Yu was completely stunned. However, at the moment when his soul was frozen, the smaller Lu Xing's tears that had fused with Qin Yu's soul suddenly burst forth with a green light. Like the spring wind and rain, that coldness was instantly dispersed. Chapter 453. Qin Yu's complexion was somewhat pale. Only after a long while did Qin Yu exhale a long sigh of relief. That golden bead was truly frightening. Qin Yu felt a burst of lingering fear. It was actually able to even freeze the soul. If it wasn't for Lu Xing's tear helping me at the last moment, I reckon that I would have lost my life earlier. Qin Yu stood in the air and stared at the golden bead that was floating in the air before him. This golden bead had already caused Qin Yu to tremble with fear. Even his soul's power was unable to touch it. This was also the first time that Qin Yu had discovered that there was actually something that could harm the soul through soul's power. Faced with this sort of problem, Qin Yu thought of Wulan. Soon after, Qin Yu's figure disappeared in the air. When he reappeared, Qin Yu had already arrived at the second layer space of the Jianglan's realm, Wulan's training location. Wulan was currently sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. Wulan! Qin Yu spoke. Wulan slowly opened his eyes. When he saw Qin Yu, he revealed a smile and asked, "Qin Yu, what brings you here?" Qin Yu nodded with a slightly serious expression. "Yes, there's a matter that I wanted to ask. Is there anything that even soul's power cannot detect? Once it's detected, even the soul would be attacked." "Thanks." Wulan lightly smiled and said, "As long as it's not a living thing, it's naturally fine to detect it with soul's power." "You're saying that the soul would be attacked because of the detection of soul's power?" "I don't think that's possible." Qin Yu immediately understood. He reckoned that Wulan also did not know about that sort of thing. "Oh." Qin Yu nodded. "Wulan, you can continue with your training. I won't disturb you anymore." With a movement of his body, Qin Yu disappeared. Wulan looked to Qin Yu in confusion. He muttered in a low voice, "What's there about soul's power that cannot be detected? There's something that can directly harm the soul through soul's power?" After thinking for a long time, Wulan gave up and did not want to continue with his training. The scorching surface and the astonishing gravitational force. Qin Yu returned to the surface of the 14-star Emperor-level dark star. What exactly was that golden bead? Qin Yu was still unable to figure it out. After all, Wulan had never heard of this kind of treasure before. However, Qin Yu understood that the golden liquid, in terms of coldness, was even more astonishing than the unitary heavy water. In other words, the golden liquid surrounding the golden bead was even more precious than the first yuan heavy water. As for the golden bead, Qin Yu reckoned that he would only be able to figure it out once he reached the God realm. Amen, we'll leave that golden bead there for now. We'll study it in the future. Right now, let's head to the bewitching God temple. Qin Yu quickly rushed towards the interstellar teleportation array. After a while, Qin Yu arrived at the location of the teleportation array, on the Trial Sacred Planet. In the lobby of the first floor of the 14-star Emperor-level skyscraper, the teleportation array lit up and attracted many onlookers. A moment later, Qin Yu appeared. This immediately caused the surrounding people to be puzzled once again. Not long ago, Qin Yu, the expert who was awarded the 15-star Emperor-level title plate, had bewilderedly entered the 14-star Emperor-level dark star. After a short while, Qin Yu came out again. This caused the surrounding onlookers to be completely baffled. Lord Lu Xing. Elder Ji Qiao bowed. Says Elder Ji Qiao with a bow. Qin Yu, however, nods casually and leaves extremely quickly in front of the confused onlookers. After leaving the trial sacred planet, Qin Yu began to rapidly rush towards the bewitching god temple, according to the interstellar map that Wen Feng had given him back then. Currently, Qin Yu's greater teleportation distance was even more frightening. It was more than 10 times greater than before. It was enough to cross an entire star field. With merely a few greater teleportations, Qin Yu approached the bewitching god temple. However, when he was still an entire star system away from the bewitching god temple, Qin Yu no longer dared to continue using greater teleportation. That was because there were a large amount of spatial cracks surrounding the bewitching god temple. Those astonishingly long spatial cracks had caused the space around the bewitching god temple to become unstable. After spending a small amount of elemental spirit stones, Qin Yu was teleported to the planet closest to the bewitching god temple. This planet closest to the bewitching god temple was called the Dragon Arrow Star. When Qin Yu arrived on the Dragon Arrow Star, he also felt that the space around the Dragon Arrow Star was trembling unceasingly. However, Qin Yu discovered one thing. The number of people on the Dragon Arrow Star was pitifully small. There were only several tens of people. That's right, there were only several tens of people. Qin Yu's soul power could now also be called Divine Sense. After using his Divine Sense to scan the entire Dragon Arrow Star, Qin Yu couldn't help but be puzzled. What's with the experts of the Dark Star realm? Could it be that they don't have the slightest bit of greed or curiosity towards the bewitching god temple? Qin Yu knew that in the demon realm, because of the bewitching god temple, it had even caused the star field closest to the bewitching god temple to be known as the chaotic star field. The reason why it was so chaotic was because of the bewitching god temple. However, there didn't seem to be anyone in the Dark Star realm. There were only 2 interstellar teleportation arrays on the Dragon Arrow Star. One was for transportation, and the other was for transportation. My lord, why have you come to the Dragon Arrow Star? The person in charge of the interstellar teleportation array looked at Qin Yu and asked. Qin Yu asked, "Man, what's going on? There doesn't seem to be a lot of people on the Dragon Arrow Star. Could it be that not many people are heading towards the bewitching god temple?" The man in charge of the interstellar teleportation array shook his head and laughed. "My lord, why would the experts of our Dark Star realm want to go to the bewitching god temple? Furthermore, how many people are able to open the entrance to the bewitching god temple? The entrance can't be opened?" Qin Yu was slightly startled. That man explained. "My lord, it's not that it can't be opened. It's just that not many people are able to open it." Thus, as time passed, the number of people going to the bewitching god temple became fewer and fewer. However, every 100,000 years, a group of experts from our Dark Star realm would enter the bewitching god temple. Qin Yu understood in his heart. It would seem that the entrance to the Dark Star realm is also sealed. I hope that the defense of the seal is not as astonishing as the 8-9 space sealing array. Qin Yu's body turned into a ray of light and shot toward the sky. Of the 2 great entrances to the bewitching god temple, Qin Yu had already attempted to open the entrance to the demon realm. At that time, Qin Yu and a large group of people were still unable to open it even when they worked together. Although Qin Yu's strength had greatly increased, he still did not believe that he would be able to open it. He was rapidly flying through the outer space. With a single glance, Qin Yu saw that not far away, there was an enormous spatial crack that was several thousand miles wide and boundless in length. That spatial crack was unceasingly repairing itself, unceasingly tearing apart, and the space was constantly vibrating. Because of this spatial crack, it was extremely easy for Qin Yu to find the bewitching god temple. He only needed to fly parallel to the spatial crack and trace the origin of the spatial crack to naturally find the bewitching god temple. An incomparably enormous spherical object was floating in the outer space. This spherical object was much larger than ordinary stars. The exterior of the planet was formed by the golden cosmic fragmentary golden stream and a large amount of another type of black-colored sand. The entrance to the demon realm was located on one side of the hemisphere, formed by the golden cosmic fragmentary golden stream. As for the entrance to the dark star realm, it was located on the other side of the hemisphere formed by the black-colored sand. The might of these black-colored sand is not inferior to the cosmic fragmentary golden stream. Qin Yu discovered that when he flew close to the black-colored sand, he actually felt a piercing pain in his body. With the current Qin Yu's body's toughness, he felt a piercing pain just by being close to the black-colored sand. The might of these black-colored sand was something that could be imagined. Qin Yu's divine awareness clearly detected the aura of people on the other side of the hemisphere, formed by the black-colored sand. The location where the aura of people was located was precisely the entrance to the dark star realm. Qin Yu immediately rushed over there. "Stop!" The white-haired old man beside the entrance coldly shouted. Qin Yu immediately took out his 15-star emperor-level title plate and directly said, "I am Lu Xing, allow me to enter the bewitching god temple." Qin Yu knew that in the dark star realm, strength and status were extremely important. Upon seeing that the person who had arrived was a 15-star emperor-level expert, the white-haired old man immediately became respectful. The supervising elder of the bewitching god temple's entrance, Lian Fan, pays his respects to Lord Lu Xing. Supervising elder? Qin Yu frowned. His gaze was cast toward the circular hole, with a diameter of 10 meters. At this moment, a type of energy that caused Qin Yu's heart to palpitate was circulating through the hole. "Open the entrance." The supervising elder of the bewitching god temple's entrance, Lian Fan, immediately said helplessly, "Lord Lu Xing, I am only here to supervise. How could I possibly open the entrance? Could it be that Lord does not know that the entrance to the bewitching god temple was sealed by the three majesties, using their inherited treasures? Only by obtaining the approval of the three majesties would it be possible to open it." The three majesties? Qin Yu was slightly startled. This matter has become troublesome. Qin Yu started to frown. He did not expect that the entrance to the bewitching god temple in the dark star realm would be this troublesome to enter. He had originally thought that as long as one was an expert of the dark star realm, one would be qualified to enter. "What if I am to break this seal?" Qin Yu asked. Lian Fan said with a chuckle. Lord Lu Xing, back then, the three majesties had all said that if there is someone who is able to break the seal, then go ahead and do so. The three majesties would definitely not look into this matter. Instead, they would reward you. Qin Yu nodded his head. His gaze once again looked toward the seal on the hole. For the three majesties who had set up this seal to be this confident, it was evident that the power of this seal was extremely extraordinary. As for Qin Yu, he was already able to sense the oppressive feeling that the energy of the seal was giving him. "Step aside," Qin Yu said indifferently to the supervising elder Lian Fan. "Yes, Lord Lu Xing." That supervising elder Lian Fan happily flew far away. Lian Fan was in charge of supervising this place. Normally, he would only bitterly train, and was extremely bored. Since this Lord Lu Xing, before him, wanted to attempt to break the seal, he would naturally be happy to watch the show. The metal force on the surface of Qin Yu's body began to spread out. Like ripples on the surface of water, the space several tens of meters around Qin Yu began to distort. Seeing this scene, the elder Lian Fan's eyes were wide open. What sort of technique is this Lord Lu Xing using? Qin Yu's gaze was fixed on the seal on the hole before him. As for the black hole in Qin Yu's dantian, it began to revolve in the opposite direction. A dark golden origin energy was accelerated by the black hole, and its speed immediately reached a frightening limit. Qin Yu extended his index finger and pointed toward the hole. He shouted in a low voice, "Break!" A sharp light suddenly shot out from Qin Yu's index finger. Wherever the finger light passed, faint spatial cracks would appear non-stop. Bang! The finger light ruthlessly struck the seal. It contained Qin Yu's strongest comprehension of the spatial laws. It was Qin Yu's strongest origin energy. Furthermore, it was accelerated to the limit by the black hole. Even if there were 3 high-quality divine artifacts in front of him, Qin Yu was confident that this attack would be able to pierce through them. Buzz! Ripples began to appear on the seal. At the same time, it let out a special sound. An oppressive sensation toward one's soul began to spread from the seal. This caused Qinyu's heart to stop. Failure. Sure enough, the three great sovereigns of the Dark Star realm cannot be underestimated. Qinyu turned around to look at that supervising elder Lian Fan. At this moment, Lian Fan flew over excitedly. Lord Lu Xing, you're actually able to shake that seal and cause it to tremble? What's wrong? Is it very strange? Said Qinyu indifferently. Lian Fan promptly said, Lord Lu Xing, could it be that you don't know that this seal is something that the three great sovereigns jointly set up using the three great inherited treasures? Even if any of the three great sovereigns were to come, they would at the very most only cause the seal to tremble slightly. Without the inherited treasures, even a full-strength attack from a 17-star Emperor-level expert did not cause the seal to react in the slightest. Lord Lu Xing, may I know how many stars of Emperor level you are? Lian Fan was extremely respectful. At this moment, how could he still believe in a 15-star Emperor level title plate? Qinyu's attack had already displayed a strength comparable to that of the three great sovereigns. However, Lian Fan didn't know that there were differences in the strength of the seal's tremors. The three great sovereigns and Qinyu were all capable of causing the seal to tremble. However, the Gold Punishment Lord's strength was a bit stronger than the Black Flame Lord and the White Profound Lord. The Gold Punishment Lord was also capable of causing the tremors to be a bit stronger. As for whether the Gold Punishment Lord or Qinyu were to be compared, whose attack power was stronger? Without comparing, it would be very hard to say. How many stars do I have? I'm about to ascend to the divine realm. Qinyu said indifferently. The current Qinyu, in terms of merely the level of his soul, was stronger than some of the weaker deities. He possessed the qualifications to say those words. Hearing those words, Lian Fan immediately came to a realization. To possess such an attack power without using an inherited treasure, this was something that he had never heard of in the Dark Star realm. It was only natural for him to be about to ascend to the divine realm. Lian Fan, remember, do not spread word of my strength. Understand? Qinyu's voice grew cold. My lord, please rest assured. I will definitely not spread word of your strength. Lian Fan's heart jumped. How could he possibly dare to disobey the orders of an expert comparable to the three great sovereigns? Qinyu nodded his head. He continued to ask, Lian Fan, do you know how to break the seal and enter the bewitching god temple? This Lord Lu Xing ought to be a super expert that trained bitterly. There are a lot of things that he doesn't know, Lian Fan thought in his heart. Then he respectfully replied, Lord Lu Xing, entering the bewitching god temple is not a difficult matter. My lord merely needs to go and speak to the three great sovereigns, obtain their permission, and obtain the passage title plate, refined by the three great sovereigns. Passage title plate. The corners of Qinyu's mouth rose slightly. It would appear that I will have to be that consecrated. That you're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.